Yeah, already.
Okay, YouTube, we should be live now. If
Let's
somebody
see.
could just give me a comment on YouTube and just let me know that you're hearing me.
Yes.
We should be live on YouTube.
Yeah, already.
I see Tony
Yep.
Cooper, Michelle Smith, Cliff Mautner. YouTube, we're live now.
Let's
Somebody
see.
could just give me a comment on YouTube and just let me know that you're hearing me.
Yes. Yes.
We should be live on YouTube. Okay, guys, we're going to get started here in just a second. Okay, hey everybody. I want to welcome everybody to the program. I'm Greg Gibson. I'm a wedding, portrait, and event photographer in the Washington D.C. area, and I'm excited and I'm actually very honored to be bringing you this program tonight. We have an all-star panel of leading photographers from around the world, and they're going to have a frank, open, heart-to-heart discussion with all of you guys on how this global pandemic has affected them all, both personally and professionally. Now, before I get into the panel, I do have a couple of housekeeping chores that I need to take care of. I'm bringing you this live stream on a brand new channel. It's called Real Picture TV. And I'm hoping that this is going to be the first of many conversations that we can have here with photographers from around the world and all the issues that we face. In order to do that, one thing that I need you guys to do is I need everybody to hit the subscribe button on the channel. Because it's a brand new channel, we're forced to use these very cryptic YouTube URLs until we get 100 subscribers. And then once we get 100 subscribers, I can create a custom URL that's going to make the channel easier for everybody to find. And also, when you subscribe to it, it just gives me a lot more incentive to keep producing good content for you guys. So please do that, and please spread the word. So this is actually the fourth live stream that I've done since the COVID-19 crisis hit. The first one I did was right after the crisis struck, and all of us were dealing with wave after wave of cancellations and postponements. So the first show that I did was with a photographer in the Washington, D.C. area named John Harrington, who's an expert on the business of photography. And also with attorney Mickey Osterreicher, who is the legal counsel to the National Press Photographers Association. And that show was on contracts and legalities. And the goal there was to try to help photographers deal with all those contractual issues, the cancellation fees, the refunds, the retainers, and the deposits, and that kind of thing. And then the next show that I did was with photographer Paul Giroux. That was on his Portraits in the Time of Corona series. And the last show that I did was just a couple of weeks ago, and that was with medical expert Dr. Anand Parekh on dealing with the crisis from a health and public safety aspect. Now, I did those shows on my personal channel, and I'm going to be moving those shows over to this channel. So I hope you guys will keep an eye out for those because there was a lot of good information there. Now, certainly there have been other crises in the world that have adversely impacted our lives and affected our businesses. I wasn't a wedding photographer in 2001, but in the U.S. back then, we had the 9/11 attacks, which certainly caused a number of postponements and cancellations of weddings and events. In 2008, we suffered through the housing crisis. Unfortunately, that one didn't last very long, and the economy bounced back in a very strong way. Japan has suffered through the Fukushima nuclear disaster as well as the tsunami, and so photographers there have actually had to rebuild their businesses a couple of times. And most recently, Australia had some issues with wildfires. But for most of those, we were primarily bystanders to those situations. We certainly commiserated with our colleagues from afar, but we never actually felt any impact in our own markets, and maybe we couldn't really appreciate what they were actually going through. But this time, folks, it's really different. We are all gripped by a global disaster of epic proportion. It is affecting each and every one of us in very much the same way. Our struggles are all very real. They're very similar, and yet we all go through them just a little bit differently with our own unique perspectives and outlooks. Now is really the time for photographers from all over the world to join together to gain a better understanding of how we're coping locally, how we're coping globally, how we're planning for the future, and what can we do to actually ensure the survival of our industry. And in fact, now is really a great time to be a member of an organization. And one thing that I want to encourage everybody to do here is to join a professional organization that is going to advocate on your behalf. In the U.S., we have organizations like PPA, the Professional Photographers of America, the National Press Photographers Association, and ASMP. Asia has Asia WPA, the Asia Wedding Photographers Association, and the United Kingdom has SWPP and BIPP, and I know Australia and other parts of the world have professional organizations as well. So you need to find an organization and be a part of something. You want to be a part of something larger so that your voice is going to be amplified and heard. And also, in the conversations that I've had with all the folks on the panel, we know a lot of you folks are hurting. You're hurting financially. You're really struggling. A lot of us weren't prepared to be totally unemployed, and we know the stress of this situation can really be unbearable. So at different points in the program, I'm going to stream some contact information at the bottom of the screen for various help organizations that we've come across. And if you find yourself in a bad situation, please reach out and get some counseling. Talk to other photographers. Many of us have been having virtual get-togethers online and virtual meeting places like Zoom. Social distancing doesn't mean social isolation. So please reach out and talk to somebody if you do find yourself struggling. So one more thing before we get into the panel. I'm going to bring on Phillip Tsang. And
Hi, Greg.
Hey, Phillip. Phillip is the co-founder of the Asia Wedding Photographers Association, and he lives in Hong Kong, and he's been monitoring this situation with photographers from all over Asia, and especially those in China. So, Phillip, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for being here. So, first of all, how are you, and how are you doing personally, and how have you and your family been managing things?
Yeah. Well, we are doing okay. We have some social distancing regulations in Hong Kong. So we basically try to keep ourselves at home. I'm going back to the office like perhaps twice a week. And then most of the people here are doing like home office. And then we can't actually meet clients. We basically use video conferencing. And then we have, I guess, well, for me personally, there are many weddings have been postponed. So many jobs and works have been delayed. In Hong Kong, during the past, before the virus, there have been a 6 months protest in Hong Kong. So that's already hitting the wedding industry already. And then the coronavirus started, so it's basically destroying the wedding industry in Hong Kong.
So Phillip, when did things really change there in your region? How long have you guys been dealing with? And when did you really start to feel the effects of the crisis?
Well, because we, I guess. It's like as early as mid-January. Like I just want to talk about like 17 years ago when SARS started. Hong Kong people are very concerned about the SARS and is very cautious about what things about virus, things like that. So when we heard about the virus starting in Wuhan in China in like late December, people are already getting a bit concerned. And then it's like late January, people started to find alcohol, hand swab, and then masks. It just started in late January. So it's a little bit early then because we're so close to mainland China. So we started to get ourselves to feel the virus impact perhaps a bit earlier than many other countries.
So when the crisis really started to set in, how did the governments there respond? What kind of restrictions did they implement?
The restrictions at the start, there are not many restrictions. It's basically like it's like a quarantine procedures between travelers coming into Hong Kong, and then in the past few weeks, I guess the regulations are more or less the same as with most other countries, like partially closing the border, and then the more strengthened quarantine requirements, and then social distancing requirements. For example, we cannot now have any weddings with more than 20 people, including the crew. So you can have parents, the bride and groom, and then a few friends, and then a photographer at the best, and then one videographer. That's all we can get for one wedding. So people are just basically postponing their weddings because they cannot arrange anything stunning or with a big crowd of friends and relatives coming to congratulate them in the weddings.
So China aside, we'll come to China in just a second. But what are you hearing from other photographers around the region? Have any countries implemented work stoppages? Which would you say, which areas have been most restrictive and which have been least restrictive?
You mean geographical area or?
Yeah, geographical. Well, do you know any specific countries that have implemented any work stoppages in Asia? Or who would you say has been the toughest, has cracked down the hardest on the events industry, and which has probably been the least restrictive?
I don't know. I mean, in terms of regulations, it's more or less the same. It's just in Hong Kong, it has been a place where a lot of international conferences and going on, but they have all been cancelled. There basically just no people traveling to Hong Kong, so I guess that's the case.
So I know you were doing a questionnaire. You sent a questionnaire out to members of your group,
Yes.
and you were submitting
Yes.
the results to the government. So what kind of questions were you asking, and did any of the results surprise you?
With us, basically everyone in the wedding industry in Hong Kong, photographers, videographers, and even makeup stylists, wedding planners, and we've asked how serious the virus thing has impacted them in terms of business. And basically, 98% experienced a decrease in revenue, and then 20% of the companies had zero revenue in the past 3 months. So
Wow.
because, and then if you know, the Hong Kong property and the rent is so expensive. So they have to basically pay the rent and then pay the employees' salary, which could range from like, I don't know, several thousands Hong Kong dollars to 50,000 Hong Kong dollars, which is how much in the US? Like 20,000, 50,000 US, either, yeah, anyway. So, and then basically 100% replies from the companies, basically asking the government to provide more assistance to the industry because they will very soon be out of business, bankrupt. It's going to be doomed. It's like a doomsday.
I know a lot of photographers here feel the same way about that. I mean, so have the governments been receptive to aid packages? Do you know of any governments that have actually implemented any kind of aid for people who are not able to work?
Yeah. Well, for Hong Kong, today is in Hong Kong it's Saturday, and then 3 days ago, Hong Kong government has released a new batch of financial assistance scheme. And one of them is to offer assistance to self-employed persons, as long as you have paid the tax and what we call mutual retirement fund so that you have a record of being a freelance photographer or freelance videographer, then you'll be entitled to certain financial assistance. But before that, there's no specific assistance for the wedding industry. There's none.
That's difficult. So what are you hearing from photographers in China?
China is of course the first place where everything has stopped it, and we have asked some of our members in the mainland China about the situation. Basically, their weddings have been postponed or cancelled, and they have changed. They're sort of recovering, so they're starting to shoot like portrait, pregnancy photos. In the studio, things like that, and then because there are so many photographers in mainland China, they all like eager to go online and learn something. So they are starting to arrange more and more photography online courses through WeChat or Zoom, and they're just starting to learn some new skills. That's what I have heard from them. And then,
sorry.
Yeah. And then cash flow is also a problem. Yeah, sorry, Greg.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah. And then in terms of cash flow, it's quite a problem for them because many of the weddings have been postponed. So everything has been shifted to the second half of 2020, and they're just trying to manage to survive until that day. So let's see. That's what they said. Yeah.
So Wuhan was recently reopened. Have you spoke to anybody sort of in that area? Do you know how things have changed there? And overall, do you know if anything about the infection rate? Is the infection rate slowed in China, and are we expecting more things to open up? I mean, everybody here is kind of looking at China as for that light at the end of the tunnel, because since the crisis started there, and you guys have been dealing with it longer than any of us, we're hoping to get some positive news out of there.
I guess for the official figures, they're slowing down, and there aren't many new cases in China. But we're not too sure about the actual situation because it's all figures announced by the governments. But for Hong Kong, we are having a steady increment of the new cases, but it's not very serious because people are just very concerned, cautious about social distancing in Hong Kong, so things are getting better. In China, I think it's slowing down, not many new cases, that's what we think. And then their life is sort of like starting to resume a bit, like going back to the office, going back to work.
Well, that's actually really good news. It's good to hear that things are starting to stabilize a bit there. So, yes. Lastly, Phillip, I'm going to get you out of here on this. What message or advice do you have for photographers in your region, and what do you want to say here to all the photographers that are viewing this broadcast from around the world?
Yeah, I guess we just have to all stay positive. We are if we're talking about the wedding industry, like a wedding videographer and the wedding photographer industry, then we have to stay positive. We cannot be like show that we are so negative about the industry and about shooting weddings to our clients, right? So we just have to stay very positive. And in terms of business side, maybe we can, I don't know, to keep the cash flow, we can offer some discounts for some clients that they are going to postpone the weddings. If they're going to postpone the weddings, we are offering you some discount, and then if you pay the balance fees earlier, then we'll give you a big discount. This is something that we may consider so that we can maintain the cash flow. And then because maybe we have a couple of days in a week to spend at home as a home office, we can. It's a good time maybe to rework our website and our client management system. We just get some photos out and do some better editing. There's so many things that we can learn, and we can do at this time. So just stay positive, and I'm sure things will get better very soon.
Well, I think that's good advice, Phillip. Thanks so much for being here with us. We appreciate it. So, and stay safe out there, and give our best to all your colleagues in Asia.
You too.
Thank you. So
Thank
go ahead
you.
and jump off, and we'll bring Cliff on here in just a minute to join the rest of the panel.
Yep.
So now we've got our full panel here. So let me just introduce everybody really quick. I'm not going to really do any bios on folks here. I think you guys know these folks pretty well. They're all really well known. They're leaders in their industry, and most of them really don't need any introduction. So in the top middle, we have Cliff Mautner from Philadelphia in the United States. Next to him is Marcus Bell from Brisbane, Australia. And then underneath Marcus, we have Salvatore Dimino from Sicily in Italy. And in the middle, we have the one and only Jose Villa from California in the United States here. Next to Jose, we have Tracey Taylor and Dee Green from Japan. They're actually Australian expatriates that had a booming business at least in Japan, but they stay very busy. They're a high volume shop there. And then below them, we have Rocco Ancora, also from Australia, from Melbourne. And below him, or next to him, we have Sanjay Jogia from the UK. And then last but not least, in the bottom right corner, I believe that was the Bobby Brady position that she has there, we have Sarah Ferrara from Italy. And so I'm just really tickled to death and honored to have all these guys here. So for me, this nightmare started on March the 9th. I had a full week of corporate events scheduled, and on Monday of that week, 3 of them canceled. On Tuesday, 4 more of them canceled. And by the end of the week, I was pretty much unemployed for the rest of April. So wedding-wise, I was pretty much okay because I had a really solid contract for my wedding stuff. And most of the clients that I had that were affected just postponed, and I really didn't have any conflict. So it was just really easy to reapply the retainer for those dates. Now, on the corporate side, that's where I got caught with my pants down just a little bit. I have a lot of corporate relationships that are very casual. They're trust-based. It's people that I've worked with for a long time. And someone will call me up and say, "Hey, Greg, can you shoot an event for me next Tuesday at 11 a.m.?" And I'm sure. I'll say sure, and this is how much it's going to cost. And that worked well for me for a lot of years. And I only had maybe 2 or 3 events canceled. And so I had never really considered a cancellation fee. I wasn't protected contractually. And so when those cancellations started rolling in, I lost a lot of that revenue, and I had no recourse on it. So that's where things kind of started for me. Now, I'm going to bring up the panel here. And so I think I want to start here with Sarah, because Sarah is in the Lombardy region of Italy, which is one of the hardest hit areas. So Sarah, can you talk a little bit about what you guys have been going through and when it all started?
Yeah, sure. Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Yeah. It all started with us. The day I left for WPPI to come to the States, Las Vegas, someone said to me, "Oh, there's a case in Italy." And by the time I came back, this is how fast it was. Actually, the schools were closed within a few days of me being away. And by the time I came back, I was due to come back, just stay for a short while, because I have a foot in both the UK and Italy. I'm originally British, and I was due to spend some time in the UK. And I landed here, and within a few days, we were on lockdown. In Lombardy. It started off in Lombardy, and it was gradual, but I'm talking about each day there was a new measure. So I've been on lockdown now since I'm losing track of the days. I'm sure everybody recognizes this feeling, but it's been quite a long time now. Since within a few days of coming back from the States, so beginning of March, it escalated so fast, my head was spinning. And I really understand when you said that some people didn't feel quite ready to talk about it, because I did have a few weeks when, if you'd have asked me, I probably would have said no. I mean, I found myself cancelling friend chats, Zoom calls with friends that I just wasn't able to cope with. We felt like it felt like it was an Italian thing for a very long time. Obviously, it was, it started in China. There was a problem there, but in terms of the West, it felt like it was very much an Italian problem for a while. And I had people messaging me saying, "Is this true? Or is it just the media stirring things up? Is this actually happening?" And I said, yeah. In fact, it's worse than the media's making out. So we've been on very, very strict lockdown, and I still am. I did 3 weeks completely isolated because I had some symptoms. I don't know if I had the virus or not, but I had a low-grade fever for about a week. And as a result, I had to stay home completely alone. I couldn't see my daughter. So 3 weeks in isolation, that was tough. But things are much better now. Let's just say I've eased into it, and I've found my rhythm.
That's good. That's good. It's glad to know that that at least personally things have started to stabilize and you're coming to grips with the situation. So I'm going to jump up to Cliff. So Cliff, and I'm going to give everybody, I'm just going to kind of go through the grid here, and I'm going to give everybody about 3 to 5 minutes just to kind of let everybody know kind of where you are with things and how it's been.
Well, how has it been? Well, I really relate to Sarah when she refers to not really knowing what day it is. Time seems to just warp into one another. Right now, I was speaking to some people and trying to bring some solace. I did a Nikon video the other day. They've asked us to speak to their audience, and we were all asked to make a little tips video, that kind of thing. And I couldn't come up with any tips, so I just wanted to relate to other wedding and portrait photographers out there, because this industry is certainly ravaged, and I don't know when it's coming back. I'm fully prepared to know that I may not be able to shoot a wedding for another year. That reality is quite real. But knowing this, I also believe in my heart that the industry is going to come roaring back. I think the people that can afford to have parties, they're going to have them maybe like never before. I think there's going to be stories to be told. I think people are going to want to celebrate. So I think while photography certainly isn't dead by any standard, I think it's going to come back in a huge way. But for the wedding and portrait industry, I think there's going to be a lot of casualties, and it's going to be a lot of pain for quite some time, considering that we can't even have groups of 10 people gather, let alone 200, 250 in the South Asian weddings of 500. I don't know when that's going to happen. On a personal note, I've had all of my weddings but one postponed. I just literally had a cancellation today for June. They hadn't moved it, and today they just emailed me and they canceled. Also personally, I'm going a little star crazy. My routine is kind of butchered, but I feel fortunate. I really do. My days usually just consist of going to the studio, playing a little golf, going to the market. First world problems. But the industry, I'll get right back to the industry. I don't know. This panel, it was so interesting to hear from Phillip. I'm glad Sarah's feeling well and better. I'm really interested to hear what Tracey and Dee have to say. In the United States right now, we're being ravaged. I'm in the Philadelphia area. I'm fortunate that I'm not in the New York market, but what difference does it make? What difference does it make when you can't have a wedding at all? When are all of you out there, going to be comfortable being in a room with 200 people making pictures? So these are the questions that I'm asking myself. And, Greg, you and I talk about it. Marcus, you and I talk about it. Rocco. So these are the things that are going through my head. And, right now I'm just trying to stay the hell home. That's really all I can do.
Thanks for that, Cliff. So Marcus, let's switch over to you.
Yeah, g'day to everyone around the world watching this, and thanks for coming in, and for Greg for putting this on. And I think like all of us, we're being a little bit blindsided, by all this happening. And I was in mid-February, traveling through Japan, photographing a family portrait for about 5 days, and then headed off to WPPI in the US, and I was, quite frankly, super nervous in Japan because everyone was walking around with masks and things like that. And where I got to the US, it was the complete opposite. Even the border control in Japan coming in was so super strict, and in the US it wasn't. And, I didn't realize, getting home from Australia, how things would quickly escalate, while even we're at WPPI, that we heard about that first case and how things were escalating in Italy. And I don't think any of us, realized how global this would be and what an impact. I think, being back a week, that's when I started seeing, our clients all postpone their weddings. And I have to say, there was this great sense of relief and how amazing I think, all our clients have been in the resilience that they've had. Their lives and their dreams of, getting married all of a sudden were being put on hold. And I think for the majority of them, rather than, cancelling and taking the easy way out, a lot of them have just sort of stuck through it. And I think the really great thing is that the wedding industry got behind that. In everyone that I've spoke to, all the venues, suppliers, and it was like a no-brainer. I think, that we'll just let's move the date. Now that we've got into it, I guess 4 weeks, past that, I am a little bit nervous that the people that have rebooked, for, towards the end of the year, that they may have to rebook again. And but I think, I take solace that, that the industry will just simply do what we've already done and just move those dates and everything like that. So from that side, I think all of us have been really, really fortunate. Me personally, I've had really good days, or okay days, and I've had really bad days, where, I didn't want to get out of bed, or, found it really difficult. I've got 3 boys and my wife as well to look after, and then all my family and friends that, that I also see hurting. And everyone's in a different situation. And so I guess what I started doing is I started listening to people, talking to people. When Greg first reached out to me, I was, hesitant to get involved because I thought there was something, it was difficult to raise that when it was so raw. But I think, talking about it's been really important. And one of the things I think that I know is that trying to, I've tried to, go back to exercising, and because I know that it's really good for my mental health to, the fitter you are, keeping busy and getting those, your body moving, has a positive result. And I know personally, there's one or 2 days where, having a wine where I probably normally wouldn't, and it's been a bit of a relief, but I know that's not the answer either. But I'm also seeing, positives as well. I started ringing people that I know, and in planners and the wedding industry, and seeing what their take is on things. And from those calls, some really positive information's coming out of that, where people are stuck at home and they are actually starting to plan their weddings, and in some cases they're engaging in with those planners and booking them. So I think there is a lot of positives out there, and I think it's great that we're all able to to get together.
Thanks, Marcus. Honestly, I found myself having an extra glass of wine a few of these nights as well. And I don't know about you guys, but my sleep patterns have been really affected. I seem to have a hard time sleeping some nights.
I think we're turning into vampires, really.
So let's go over to Jose Villa. Jose, how have you been getting along?
I really connect a lot with what Marcus has to say. I mean, honestly, everything you said is pretty much how I've been feeling. A couple of things I want to add, though, to that is, I'm trying to keep as positive as possible. And like Marcus mentioned, I'm reaching out to friends I haven't talked to in a really long time that are also affected, wedding planners that I haven't connected in a long time, and just asking them, how are you doing? How are you doing? And we don't really talk too much necessarily about business, but like personally, how is everybody doing? I mean, I think it's a really good opportunity to, on a personal life level, to check in on those that maybe we haven't connected in a while, business-wise and also personal. So that's been really good, I think, for me, to be honest with you. I have been working out a lot more, which is great, watching what I eat, which is awesome. It's almost kind of like a reset. And obviously, on top of everything else that's going on here with the horrible things with the business, I feel like I'm just trying to figure out what the next steps are for me, personally, but also business-wise. So business-wise, I would say a third of my work has been postponed so far. The good news is nothing has been canceled. So I've been working a little bit with playing with dates, like I'm sure all of you guys have. I've lost one wedding because I was already booked for a 2021 event, and I've had to pass that on to another photographer. I'm very big on connecting with photographers, and we have this community here in the U.S. You guys talked about WPPI, but even beyond that, I have a number of really great friends I've made through PPA and WPPI, and we connect on Zoom. And what we do is if for some reason I'm not available for that postponement date, I'm going to hand it off to one of my friends. And likewise, it'll come back to me. So I think at this point, I'm so open and willing to help the community out, to help my friends out in any way that I can. One thing that I do want to mention, which maybe is kind of a difficult thing, I guess, maybe to talk about for those clients that may be also struggling as well financially because of the markets and things like that. But, I've actually reached out to most all of my clients over the last couple of years and connected with them about even just creating an album for them. And it's not necessarily, for me, yes, it's great for business, but it's also an opportunity for me to give them more of my time right now and walk them through creating these things, or even reprinting images for them that maybe, because everyone is such in a hurry and in a rush in a daily, go situation. Now we have this opportunity to sit down and to actually connect with them on a more of a personal level, which I actually never really did with my clients, to be honest with you. It was always just so strictly business. So it's given me a really amazing opportunity to connect more with my clients and with vendors too, to be honest with you. So yes, it's of course very horrible what we're going through, but I feel like we just have to think positive and help each other out through this process. I do see the light at the end of the tunnel, though. I mean, that's just who I am. I always see the positive of everything that's negative, and I feel pretty good. I know that things are going to get better, and hopefully in the next couple of months we'll be comfortable and shooting weddings, and as long as we get these damn tests out, then we can at least feel better about moving forward with being around people.
I'm with you, Jose. I like that. I like the positive outlook on it. Okay, let's go down to our other friend from Australia, Rocco. How's it been going with you?
Yeah, it's been an interesting, very, very interesting ride. For me, when we first heard of the virus, it was mid-January, and I was in London at SWPP, and just in the short time that I was there, it was only like 4 or 5 days. Flying back home, we flew back through Asia, through Singapore. And the minute we landed in Singapore, I think myself and fellow Australian colleague Tony Hewitt, we were the only two Westerners in the airport not wearing masks. And we kind of felt very anxious about it. And sure enough, as I boarded my flight back to Melbourne, Australia, everyone on the flight also had, and it slightly freaked out, to be honest. We got back home, and at the time in Australia there was maybe one case, so things were pretty cool. We then went to WPPI, and we treaded very carefully and we made sure, like, we constantly washed our hands, because we just weren't sure of, where this virus was and who it was going to. We arrived back in Australia on the 1st of March, and I was really sick. I had a fever, I had a cough, and I thought I had it. I thought I had the virus. I said, for sure. And this is the sort of stuff that starts to play on your mind. You start to, to suffer these anxieties unnecessarily, but, they're justified because of what is going on, around you. Went to the doctor, had all the tests, and I didn't have it, which was great. But what I did have was a very serious infection, so I had the influenza virus as opposed to the coronavirus. The medication that I was on, I couldn't go and self-medicate with my trusty friend, a nice Pinot Grigio. So I make things even worse. Because, but at the same time, I kind of used that time as a cleanse, no alcohol, and I continued then no alcohol for a whole month. Lost a ton of weight. I started walking, so I looked at it. I started to look at the positive of the health benefit of everything that was going on. In Australia, things sort of ramped up gradually. I mean, we went from the government saying that we weren't allowed to have any more than 500 people at an outdoor event and 100 people at an indoor event, which made some weddings possible. Until in New South Wales, there was a wedding and there was one infected guest at that wedding, and 30 people got infected. So the government came back and said, right, no more weddings, basically, and that was it. So now it is virtually impossible to have a wedding. They made it so that really no more than 5 people could be present at the wedding. So when you take the bride and groom and the celebrant, that's 3, and then you got your witnesses. Well, there's no photographer and there's no one else. And now, of course, that we're in total lockdown, we're in stage 3 restrictions, where you can't go out of your house unless you're buying food or you're caring for someone, and if you're going out for a walk or exercising. So weddings are totally off the books. Now, I've been fortunate because the book do have, and I do have a good contract in place, and that's something that I did very, very early on in my career, and that was due to the fact that I had resources available to me through the Australian professional photographers, which were great. Taking those that advice on board, and then seeing my own personal, lawyer, further bits and pieces together, meant that I was pretty safe as far as contractual obligations with my clients. So all my work that was due to be shot, through March, April, May, June, July, August, has now been pushed to November and beyond. The one that's happened is that, and Jose just mentioned that earlier, the photographic has really come together here. So I get phone calls from fellow photographers that can't fulfill the date because they've been pushed forward or whatever, and we're taking on those jobs as well. I'm helping other photographers are helping me, and that's a really, really good thing, to the point where I'd rather go out, and if I'm available for that date, I'll shoot it as a contractor, get paid, and still give them the opportunity to then to have that time with their client and upsell albums and whatever else, so that everyone benefits. And it's, I don't know, for me, I feel really good about it. I feel really good that we're helping each other. And even like thinking about it in a way where we're all in this together, but we can help each other in any which way we can. Moving though, without any clear indication as to when this thing's going to end, it makes things a little bit difficult. We had a wedding that had postponed to November, which is now postponing to May 21, purely because of that uncertainty. And that's going to make things tough because we have no clear indication from the government as to where we're going with this. For the very simple reason, I don't think they know themselves. And until there's a drug that helps with symptoms, or indeed a vaccine, the confidence of the general public to be out in groups, which means that weddings and events, it's going to be pretty difficult for that part of the photographic industry. Confidence again. I know that I freak out now every time I go to the supermarket. I literally freak out. I have to plan ahead. It's the gloves, it's the mask, it's the social distancing, and the level of anxiety associated with that is huge. I can't even imagine picking up a camera and going out in public to photograph an event, even though it is an event, maybe 40, 50, 60 people. I think I would still struggle with that. And I'm sure, most photographers would feel exactly the same, especially when you know that perhaps you could pick up the virus and take it home to your family and kids. It's a tough one to actually, to stomach, if you like, So, but the government here has been really good. The government is, they've got, a lot of, support with job seeker payments and so on and so forth. Banks have allowed us to free mortgages or pay interest only, if you like. We can extend that up to a period of 6 months. So we've been quite fortunate to be able to access that part of the aid that the government is providing. The scenario here in Australia, we have 6,000 people that are infected. Out of those 6,000, I think 3,000 have recovered. Our numbers spiked at about 600 new cases in a day. And that's when the government had a mild freak out and shut all the borders and shut everything and put us all in quarantine. And now we're down, I think today or yesterday's numbers were down to 51 per day. So it's looking really, really good for us here in Australia. So I'm thinking that, the second half of the year is going to be awesome. It's going to be extremely positive. But once again, it's dealing with the anxieties of being out in public and that, that human connection. We've been sort of keeping in touch with our clients, purely because we're concerned first and foremost about their welfare. With my clients, I have a very personal approach. I want to be able to connect with them. I want to be able to be almost an invited guest at their wedding. That's just the way I work. So there is a concern about their welfare and safety. But also I think connecting with past clients is extremely important because, as Cliff mentioned, I think photography is going to come back in a big way. I think portrait photography is going to kick things off because this time away from your family, this time away from your friends, I know for me, I can't wait to give my mum a hug again, and my dad and my sister and my nephews, because, it's an important time. And I know that I want to have now that family portrait, because, I want that big picture hanging on my wall, reminding us of, good times together. So portrait photography will come back, but I think with events and weddings, we have to ride out that storm, just that little bit. But it will back, and it'll come back in a big way. I believe that.
I share your outlook, Rocco, and oh gosh, I don't know how I put my name on you, but we were talking about the facing it personally and feeling like maybe you had it and worried about your family. I can certainly commiserate with that. One of my sisters actually tested positive with herself and 2 of her children, and oddly enough, it was her husband was the one that was symptomatic, and he was the reason that they all got tested, and he actually turned out not to have COVID-19, but my sister and the 2 kids did. So it's just really a difficult thing to grapple with. So let's jump over now to Sanjay over in the UK. Sanjay, tell us a little bit about what's been going on with you there.
Yeah, it's a real mix of what everyone's been saying so far. there's echoes of what Cliff said, what Rocco said, and what Phillip said earlier on. The same sort of anxieties that Marcus was talking about as well. My approach tends to be a little bit more like Jose's, a little bit more positive, and just thinking about the things that we can do to keep things ticking over and keep things fluid on this. And so, for the first week, there was a shock. There was everything's been thrown up in the air. We've got to wait for the dust to settle to see where we are with things. And day by day, things were progressing. So initially, we didn't know whether we were going to be shooting weddings in that month or the next month, and so on. It just week by week it was progressing. So we're in our third week of the lockdown over here, and it kind of feels a little bit like people are settling into an equilibrium, getting used to, getting comfortable almost with the lockdown, trying to get on with their daily lives. I'm trying to figure out some kind of routine. I'm in my office at the moment here, which is a short walk from home, so I get my walk in and I get to come over here and do some work. So I'm in isolation at home, in isolation over here, but it just gives me that focus when I come over here to get some work done, deal with the last bits of last year's work and new requests now, because clients have time on their hands, so they're picking their album images, which is great because it's keeping things fluid, it's keeping things moving forward. But as far as the postponements go, it's a little bit like Jose. Actually, it's about a third, maybe a quarter of ours has been postponed to the end of the year and sort of the first half of next year as well, where there's availability. So our stance was to work with our clients, ask them to find a range of dates that they could possibly rearrange for, and coordinate our availability. So the slight irony here is obviously we need our clients to survive. We need our clients to be able to put food on our table and pay our mortgages and keep a roof over our head and so on. But we were the ones who have to put a comforting arm around them to let them know that we're here for them. We'll always be here for them. We'll fulfill our commitment to them. It's just going to be later. There's no sense in cancelling anything because it will just cost them more. And we have to have some empathy and sympathy for them, because as a wedding vendor, as a wedding supplier, we need to understand what they're going through, but also explain to them our plight. We're not big multinational companies. We rely on these clients, and some photographers will shoot 15 weddings a year. Some photographers will shoot 50, 70, 80, 100 weddings a year. I don't know. But we rely on every single one of them to get through the year and get through the few months ahead of us as well. Now, different photographers will have different levels, depths of their coffers to be able to get them through these few months. So we're working with our clients to comfort them, make them understand that we will be there, but in return, to look after us. So we'll transfer our commitment to whatever their new date is. We try to fit that in. Can you hear me there?
Yes.
Okay. We'll try to transfer our the entire timeline, the entire program that we've worked with them, the entire schedule, to whatever the new date is, based on our own availability as well. And clients have been great. They've been understanding. They understand that we have to make a living out of this, and that they're not asking to take key dates next year, because we still have to take on new clients for next year, which has been fantastic. And there have been a few inquiries to take on key dates, but after explaining it to them that we can't allow this year's income to take up next year as well, and therefore be basically living off 1 year's income over a 24-month period, they're happy to work with us. Ultimately, we have to form that relationship with our brides and grooms so that they understand that we need to exist as a business, not just us, but all of us on this panel and everyone watching as well. We need to exist in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, whatever it is, whenever the wedding has been postponed. So we just asked them in return to basically honor their commitment, which is the payment terms, the payment timelines as they stand, as though they were getting married now and we'll be there for them later on. And we just continue to try to market, we continue to try to see clients virtually and have those consultations now so that we can rein in the bookings for next year and try to keep things moving as much as possible. But this is also a great opportunity for us to try and re-strategize. And, there's a certain amount of downtime that we have in between getting work done, coping with the new reality, coming to terms with it, handling the psychology of this new reality for ourselves. And in those spaces, we can take time to actually reevaluate ourselves, our businesses, our systems as well. So, you might take this time to reevaluate your pricing structure, take this time to reevaluate your workflow structure to streamline things. We'll take this time to integrate new systems if we have to, because we have the downtime, data backup systems and that sort of thing, CRMs. So we're keeping ourselves busy with an assumption that we're going to come out the other end strong. So when we do have the boom, we're ready for it. Because put it this way, so far the focus has been on clients for this year having to postpone. Don't forget, these guys, they want to be married. They want more than anything in the world to have their big day, now more than ever, to see their friends and family as soon as possible. I foresee these first few weddings after the lockdown being the most emotional days for everybody, not just the bride, the grooms, the family, but for us. I think we're all going to be in tears when we get there and we start to shoot these weddings. Everyone's just going to be so happy to be there, and the reception parties are going to be insane because everyone's just going to be having a good time. The fact that they're actually all out together again. Whenever that happens, there's obviously realities that we've got to face in the meantime. Practically, when will it be possible to have crowds of people again? We can only follow government directives, and of course, families, brides and grooms, their relatives, they'll be cautious, and perhaps they'll keep their elders at home because they're most at risk. But I think whoever can be there will be there. I think that's just human nature. We all need to coalesce and come together. We're all emotional beings, so we just want to see each other and share those emotions. But also bear in mind that there are people now probably putting off their engagement until this is all over. And as soon as it's over, there's going to be a surge. There's going to be a surge of engagements. There's going to be a surge of inquiries. People realizing now that because 2020 clients are probably pushing their dates back to the end of this year or even next year, they're going to need to get in there pretty quickly. So we will be busy. We just need to set ourselves up now. Think of it as training for a marathon or training for triathlon. We know that the date is further in the future, but we've got to spend this time between now and then building ourselves up, training for it, training psychologically, training emotionally, training financially, training with our systems, building the whole thing up, making it fitter, making it leaner, making the whole thing more efficient, essentially. So, this has always been our approach. So myself and my wife Roshni, we run our business. We set it up together, and I'm very fortunate that I have her to bounce ideas off, and she'll bounce ideas off me. And when I'm down, she'll pick me up, and vice versa. And I know not everybody has that in the industry, and sometimes it can be a very lonely place, this industry, because we're trying to get through this thing, and sometimes it feels like people don't understand. Sometimes it feels like other vendors don't understand. Sometimes it feels like clients just don't understand. Take time to actually just speak to them and explain your emotions, explain how you're feeling, and explain that just like them, we're vulnerable, we're human beings. This could catch us too. We're doing everything we can to stay on our feet, not get ill. And, I have friends and family who have this. I've lost relatives of friends to this thing. I have a friend in ICU at the moment. So, I'm not taking any of this very lightly at all. I'm not taking it for granted. I hear stories on my WhatsApps and my text messages and emails and that sort of thing. It's hitting very close to home day by day. And, we have to try and keep a positive mindset to push ourselves through this. But yeah, look, take this time to also look after yourself. My approach has been, I need to fix myself first. I need to fix my mentality, my physicality, stay strong, keep fit. I'm keeping active. I'm moving every day. I'm watching what I eat. I do lean on the odd glass of wine or whiskey every now and then, just to sort of ease the nerves a little bit. Make life feel like it's normal, but that's okay. We all have to have our releases. So know what your release is and lean on that. And I do believe we'll come out at the end of this. It is about looking for that light at the end of the tunnel. It just happens to be a very long, dark tunnel that's extending day by day. But just keep an eye on that bright light at the end. And for me, it's going to be, the bright light is, they are the weddings. They are the moments I get to see my friends and family again. My brother, my sister, my dad, my nieces, nephews, cousins, friends, everybody. I can't get to see right now. I can see them on Zoom, just like the rest of us. But we all want to just hold them, give them a hug, tell them we love them, and those are the moments we're looking forward to.
Yeah, I
It'll
agree.
come. It'll come.
I appreciate that. Absolutely. Let me jump over here now to Salvatore. Well, I have to give a lot of credit and shout out to Sanjay and Sarah and Salvatore, because they got the short end of the stick on the time zone. So we started this at 1 a.m. in Italy and midnight in the UK, and so we're now pushing 2 a.m. there. So we really appreciate you guys.
Greg, Sanjay's just getting started.
We appreciate you guys holding back on the
you
wine.
You cut out there. Say that again.
Sanjay's started.
So, Salvatore, give us a little background on what's been going on with you.
Well, pretty much what all of my friends have saying. Actually, I fly back from WPPI, and then I had a workshop on New York. So I came back in Italy on the 4th of March, which was crazy because I was flying and I was trying to think what's going to happen, how will be what will be different, because I left Italy and everything was okay. And then once I arrived in Vegas on the 21st of February, I just read the next day that we had the first case in Italy of the virus. And then after all these days in Vegas and then my workshop in New York, when I fly back, I was scared, a little bit scared, because I said, what happens if they don't let me in? So at the end, I stay locked at home since the 4th of March, because they locked down Italy on the 10th of March. But because I didn't know, because I was coming from the US and I don't know what could happen. And I said to my wife and my father, my parents, I said, you know what, I'm going to stay at home. I'm not going to go out because I don't really know what's going to happen. At the end, after 6 days, they locked down everything. So for everyone, I think it's the same. It took like several days or a couple of weeks before you get used to it, to stay at home and trying to, organize yourself in your day, because I think it's, for me and for everyone, it's the first time that we are forced to stay at home and without reaching no one. I mean, like Sanjay said, only with Zoom or WhatsApp or whatever. So what I did is I'm every day I wake up. Normally, maybe I wake up, let's say, a little bit late, but I work in the morning. I try to do something, because it's not for me staying on the couch and watching TV and doing nothing. I actually, this time, especially in this time where I never have time, all this time in my life, I mean, I have plenty time to think about a lot of things and work on a lot of things. And that's what I'm doing. So the first thing that I thought was, you know what? Because, all my clients after the 10th of March, after 1 week, start calling me to postpone the weddings. So after like 4 or 5 clients, which one of the big difference that I noticed today is that every email or every message or every time I pick up the phone, someone say, first of all, hi, how are you? Is everything okay? And, this is something that I really saw the difference. Every email starts, how are you and your family? I hope everything is good. So this will change us in the future for sure. And what I thought, I said, you know what? Because the first calls from my clients, because when the clients book you as the wedding photographer, they trust you. And they think probably that you know more than them. But actually, we don't know nothing more. But they trust you, so they really want to hear about you, what's your thought about what's going to happen in the future. And what I thought, I said, you know what? I'm going to call all my clients and not to decide what to do for the wedding, just to call them and say, how are you doing? How are you going? And that was really interesting because we spoke together. We talked about what can we do? What will be better? What do you think? What's going to happen this year? And what happened is most of my clients postponed the weddings, some of them for next year, but most of them, they postponed it for September, October, and December, which for me, it's crazy because in Italy, my wedding season goes from June, May to September. And now it's totally everything postponed. So September, October, and December, it's crazy. But we don't know if actually this is going to happen. But the thing is, I want to stay positive, like Sanjay said, like the others said, like you're saying, the other ones. We need to stay positive. And what I did, actually, the first thing I did, I cleaned up my studio. My studio now is brilliant, clean, perfect, because we never have time for that. And I went through all my weddings, and I decided to do a magazine that I've been thinking about this magazine for like more than 1 year. And because we never have time for that, so finally I made it. So once we're going to come back, I finally have my magazine. And I'm studying. That's what I'm doing. I'm studying my photography. I'm searching pictures. I'm trying to get new inspiration. I have more time for myself, and most of all, I have more time for my family, and I have more time to appreciate what's going around my home. Actually, I have a garden outside. I'm really lucky for that because I have a big garden, and I appreciate what can I see now because I never watched it this way. I mean, it's totally different. So again, we can't do much because nobody knows what's going to happen. But for sure, we need to stay positive, and we don't have no chance. I mean, I really believe that we're going to go through this absolutely in some way. And the market, like everybody said, like Rocco said, will come back very, very big because I think that once this go finish, we're going to work for 2-3 years more and more and more. Everything's going to come back, and we need just to go through this. I know it's hard, but we don't have no chance. That's the only way, but that's the only thing that we can do. So stay positive and think about it. And like I said, what's happening this month. I mean, now it's more than 1 month that at home. It's like 35 days, 36 days. And, I'm getting used to it. I don't feel so bad about it. I really don't feel so bad about it. I mean, I have good time with my wife. I have time with my wife. I stay a lot of time on my phone, speaking with my friends and with clients. And you know what? I think that about my clients, this will be a really good friendship that becomes more powerful with my clients. Because some of them just asking me, please tell me what should I do? Should I postpone for the end of the year or next year? And how it goes. You start talking with your client, especially with the bride, and because I know her, I'm still understanding her. Because after you stay like 10 minutes talking with her, you realize that if you're dreaming for that day, it doesn't matter if you're gonna get married this year or the next year. So do it like you would like to do, like you imagine. Don't think about how can we know if the wedding, like Cliff say, we're going to have only 20 guests, or like Rocco said, with only 5 people, 10 people. Nobody imagined the wedding in that way. So most of them, what they did is to postpone the wedding. So he said, you know what, I'm going to wait. for next year. So I'm sure that the wedding is going to be a lot like how I have imagined it forever. And let's see. That's all. Stay positive.
Thank you, Salvatore.
Yeah.
So last but not least, let's jump over to Tracey and Dee.
Yep.
Hi,
Surprise. Hello.
Hey, so the last time I saw you guys was at WPPI, and you guys were all up in the air because you had a big wedding in the Middle East, and Japan implemented travel restrictions. Or no, I'm sorry, it was where was the wedding? It was in
It was in Oman.
In Oman, and they had implemented restrictions that no one from Asia was to enter the country, right? And so you guys were in Las Vegas at WPPI without your gear for the wedding, and so I know you had a mad scramble to try to figure out how you were going to get there. So how did that go, and then how have things been in Japan?
Well, first of all, we have to thank you, Greg, for doing this. Like, this is just amazing, and it's so wonderful to see all of our beautiful friends' faces. I think we've needed this. I know Trace will speak a little bit to it, but I feel like we've been outrunning this since January. We've been planning for this year, this 2020, Tokyo 2020, for like the last 2 years. We've diversified the business. We handle our like domestic Japanese contracts, but then we also have a very big large destination market with clients coming in. And then on our end, us doing a lot of destination weddings overseas. We had moved the business forward into a different way so that Trace was handling all of the photography, and I have moved into the planning side. So, this was going to be the year. We sort of hit the second week of January and had already made like our 6-month target. So it was going to be the year. And then everything changed. So we're okay, but we're not okay, but we're okay, but we're not okay. So I'll let you speak a little bit of where we are.
Yeah, I guess we will start back because I think everything that everybody's already said. We've been making little notes here, and we were going to address them all, but we're just not.
You guys are all done, so we can start day drinking now. Like really, Yes, we have been dealing with this actually probably since December when it hit China, and then in January our postponements started coming in, and you have to remember too, though, Japan is a very social distancing country by nature anyway. They will wear masks, during allergy season and for colds and, during winter. They don't shake hands, they bow. It's a culture anyway by its very nature. So we didn't think it was probably going to boom here in the way that it did, as quickly as it did. But we had the Asia WPA conference cancel in January in Hong Kong, and they moved it to Malaysia, and then it was cancelled from Malaysia. Then we went to WPPI. And we felt so bad because we were a little bit checked out at WPPI because we had started fielding all of the rescheduling for all of our Chinese clients coming into Japan. And then, of course, we had the Oman royal wedding coming up after that. So
I feel like we were putting out fires left and right. And Dee and I often, at the best of times, feel isolated in our chosen country of where we live and work. So WPPI is often our time to connect. And so we didn't feel like we were connecting with everyone while we were putting out fires. And so we heard, while we were at WPPI, we heard that Oman had put restrictions on anyone entering from Japan, and we would have to go into quarantine for 2 weeks in Oman, which wasn't going to be the case. So what our plan was originally, we would go from WPPI back to Tokyo, where we had a wedding here. We'd be here for 2 nights, and then we'd fly to Oman, which was a 2-week event. So we realised there was no way we could miss going to Oman. It was one of our biggest weddings of the year. And so we put a team in place to fly back from WPPI back to take care of our Tokyo wedding. A lot of that was a lot of counselling with our clients, explaining why we personally wouldn't be there. And yes, so I think we also had our team going, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Our team was flying with us to Oman, so we had to figure out how we were going to get there. We decided that we would fly from the US, and that meant we had to get to New York. So we flew from WPPI to New York. We had to hang out in New York for a couple of days where they hadn't had their first case yet. I think they got it around March 2nd, which was about the day we flew out. And as we were flying out from New York, our team were flying out to go to Oman from Tokyo, but they had to sign forms, indemnity forms, saying that they knew that by hopping on the plane that they were going to be subject to quarantine, but they were going to bring a lot of our gear over, hopefully be able to pass it off to us. Mind you, having said that, thank you so much to everyone at WPPI who rallied and gave us lighting gear and camera gear and lenses and everyone. Like what a community that we had that was able to get us all this gear in case we couldn't get our own gear.
We're so grateful.
So by the time then we got to Oman, we were doing the wedding for a royal family of Oman. We had to focus 100% on them, but at the same time, everything around us, we were in Oman from around March 2nd to March 15th, which was right at the time everything seemed to be peaking. So while our focus had to be on the clients that we were there, we were trying to still connect all through the night with our clients who were rescheduling, and we were focusing all during the day on our current job.
Because we were coming back to spring here, which is cherry blossoms. It's our busiest time of the year. We were fully booked through to June without a day off. So it was a really hard, mental challenge to sort of deal with everything that we were. But luckily we have a wonderful team and community, and sort of everything that everyone's touched on is communication, like clear communication. And if nothing, connectivity. Right?
Yeah, connectivity. Because by the time we, on the day that we left the Middle East, Oman closed its borders. So we felt like we had been outrunning or trying to stay ahead, not outrunning, but trying to stay ahead of a freight train that was bearing down on us. And that's the only way that I can think to describe it. The anxiety and the stress and the mental pressure to always stay ahead. I mean, the one thing that we knew when you're working destination weddings and when you have a lot more moving parts to consider is to always stay informed. Staying informed and staying up to date on everything. So we were talking to Australian governments, US governments as we were leaving. We were trying to talk to the Oman embassy, the Japanese embassy, like literally trying to stay informed. Was really a really pivotal point.
So we're really tired.
So that's the point. We're really only just now taking a breath. And I think I mentioned to Greg earlier, we just didn't realise how burnt out that we really were. Like Dee said, 2020, this was going to be Tokyo 2020. This was our Olympic year. We had booked to the max. We had... it was going to be, I mean, it's always an emotional year when the world gets together and a country is able to showcase everything that's amazing about it. And we, Japan had been doing our marketing for us.
Yeah. We didn't have to market, we love Japan.
It was a hot spot. And so the fact that this has happened, by the way, hello from a state of emergency. Japan declared a state of emergency just a couple of days ago.
3 months too late, but it's very polite here. So
can I jump in real quick and just ask you guys? Can I jump in real quick and ask you guys? Do you think that had anything that was driven by the Olympics? Do you think that was because Japan was
everyone
so
has
focused on trying to get the Olympics in?
But we believe, and the people that we're talking to, I think that Japan was, it's $100 billion loss if the Olympics didn't go ahead. And I think that they were hoping that perhaps it would just end up righting itself somehow. I think that we didn't declare, they wanted to make people believe that, it would go ahead, and so nothing was happening here. But now that the Olympics have officially been moved, they're not rebranding it to Tokyo 2021. It'll be Tokyo 2020 forever. Now that they have moved it, I believe that they now have the freedom to be able to, address that this is a serious concern, and yeah, we'll see what's happened. They're turning some of the Olympic Village where the athletes were going to reside. They're turning that into makeshift quarantine and hospital places, and things are coming out of it.
So, like in terms of our business and kind of where we are, we're always moving forward. That's the one thing we've learned. We stayed here through the earthquake in 2011. We lost everything overnight from that, but that really taught us resilience. It taught us the importance of human relationships and connections. Like, everyone's touched on the importance of picking up the phone. I don't think I've actually ever been so social. I'm on Zooms every day, I'm on Skypes every day. So there is a real key point in being connected. I also want to be really positive. I mean, we do move forward, and that's really Trace. Like, she's always planting seeds. She'll plant 1 million seeds, and I'm like, I just want to get things done, but she's kind of the seed planter. And then in 6 months or a year time, things bloom. So that's kind of where we are now. I do think it's okay too, if you just need to take a pause in your life and business and don't go and learn something, or don't cook something, or don't do albums, or don't do anything, that's okay. We're not there. We're doing all those things as well, but we're perpetually moving forward, because that's just kind of who we are. And there is going to be no normal. There's no going back to normal. It's just moving forward,
I think if there's one thing that we learnt, it was a really big lesson about when the earthquake and Fukushima happened, because, like Dee said, we basically lost weddings overnight, and that was a year's worth of weddings. People were not travelling to Japan for the fear of a nuclear meltdown. It was a life lesson. That happened in 2011. So that was 9 years ago. And all I can remember about that time was the anxiety, the stress, the panic. Like, when I think back on it now, I truly don't know how we survived that year. So for anyone who's feeling like, I just can't get through this, but like, it happens, you get through it. And then when you look back, it's the same thing all the time. I don't know how I did it. But the lessons that we took from that about creating a playbook and working on cash flow, and working on having plans A, B, C, and D all in place. Like, the lessons that we took from 9 years ago, I think that this time we felt so much better prepared than we were. It's a different situation, but the one thing, everyone feels locked in. We're locked in. We can't go outside. But for us personally, I'm hoping that doesn't continue much past May.
It's May 6th for us at the moment.
So this is the time to be, to be planning. Everyone said it already.
And I want to be really positive too. Here's the good thing. On the planning side, I think I did 4 or 5 inquiry Skypes and FaceTimes last week, and I booked 2 weddings. So people are planning. Actually, the younger generation, for many of them, are not that impacted at all, and they've still got income coming in. They're still in a planning phase. They're at home. They're online. So I was super excited to get those retainers. They kind of mean even more right now. But, people are planning weddings. They are booking weddings. And sort of that was that buoyed us last week, right?
It did. And I think... I think that's the point, isn't it? People keep asking us, we've had a couple of people ask us, what's your 5-year plan or whatever, and we keep telling everyone our 5-year plan is to get through this year. Yeah. That's basically what the 5-year plan is. But we'll get there, and no one's meant to have this figured out yet. Like somebody said, I think it was Rocco or somebody said, not even the governments have it figured out yet. We're doing it day by day. And the one thing that I remember from 2011 was the days were long, because we were going about life and hustling and coming up with new ideas and trying to predict the future. And because we're not waiters. We don't wait around for people to tell us what's going to happen or what's going to happen. We try to preempt the future so that we can create our own world. And I like to be in control like that, being in control even when I'm not in control, obviously. I'm not in control whatsoever. But having some feeling of being in control is what keeps me calm, and that's where we're at the moment.
So actually, we were talking about this yesterday. I kind of need a little pause, probably by the end of next week, of, you know, all things digital for a little bit. But Trace, actually, to calm her anxiety, she loves planning. You know, she loves to be thinking about what's next. So you kind of got to figure out and navigate what's best for you. But we're okay.
We're good, and we're just kind of trying to preempt what everyone's saying about weddings coming back. I believe it. People are going to want to hug their family. I know I'm going to be the first person to get together with my friends. It's going to be a very, very emotional time. I keep thinking about it in terms of the Olympics next year too, how emotional that is going to be when the world gets together. And like
as creatives as well, we're all such emotional people anyway. We're all empathic people. We feel a lot more probably than most, on the entrepreneur side, on the business side, on the creative side. So we kind of, all of us collectively dealing with this. And this is what's different for us, sort of after the earthquake from 9 years ago. That was a Japan, centric disaster. But this is a global crisis that has sort of united us all, so we can all share in that.
We're trying to figure out, what we're trying to do. I think part of our job is to try and interpret what the future is going to look like and how that's going to impact, because like Dee said, it's not going back to the way it was. It's a process of evolution. Life is a process. We all evolve over a great length of time. This is just going to make one portion of our business evolve a lot faster. But if big weddings don't come back, and that's the point, if we're doing these big 400-person weddings or these ballroom weddings, if that's our business, I need to think what happens if weddings are going to only be 10 people for the next year. And I need to, over this month, then start marketing and pivoting. And pivoting in your business is pivotal. Yeah. All right. But this is
just like little things. Definitely the engagements are huge. Proposals. We're finding so many clients want to actually make the proposal part of the story as well. For us, actually, here right now, our hugest market are the elopements. We're doing a lot of elopements.
So we're planning for that.
We're planning for that. So, pivot.
If you're in an area, for us, Tokyo, Japan in general, is a place where people will want to elope. If you're in an area of where people will travel to. Look, once travel restrictions are lifted, do you know how many people will want to travel? I mean, I'm looking at flights every day trying to get out, trying to look for...
We do live in a shoebox though, so...
trying to look for where my next vacation's going to be next year. But the point is that people are going to want to travel, they're going to want to live, life finds a way of moving on, it all does. It's going to be hard for a lot of people, harder for some than others. Like I said, this will be a tough year for us. There's no denying it, but we feel like we're in a better position because of what we've been through before. And so if people can take these lessons and work out how to apply them for their business, then if it happens again, I can't believe this has happened twice in our...
this year,
of all years.
This year.
But,
I'm glad, Tracey, I'm glad, Tracey, that you brought up I was going to ask you about the Fukushima and the tsunami, because you guys definitely have a unique perspective on that, sort of having been through that before. But I want to try to kind of guide you guys into the next question that I had, and you kind of brought it up with when you brought up the state of emergency in Japan. So what actually, and that's what I'm going to come back to the rest of the panel, is what's been the governmental response? So in Japan, you said a state of emergency has been declared. So what does that actually mean?
Okay, so things are still in flux here at the moment because it was only declared this week and for 7 prefectures, but I'm sure most will be on board fairly soon. So a huge...
Just to add to that though, schools have been closed since WPPI.
Yeah, that's right.
When we were in WPPI, schools have been closed. A lot of workers have already been working from home, and weddings have been pretty much cancelled for any gatherings of...
There's not a strict number.
There's not a strict number.
But because Japan is so focused on guests, they would never do it anyway. So definitely in terms of all of our domestic weddings, everything has rescheduled, which is great. But, it will all come down to time. The one thing that we have now is time for my clients. So it's great on the planning side. We have all this lovely time that we've never had to be able to connect a little bit more. But it will also mean we need this time to be able to maximize what little time we will have sort of by the time, hopefully, September hits. We start again in September, and then we'll move forward. So at the moment, things are a little bit vague here on our stimulus package. We're in a bit of a difficult situation because we're here on like a business manager investigators, so we're not sure where we will fall.
We don't qualify for any stimulus packages in Australia, and we don't, at the moment, from what we understand, qualify here in Japan either, because we're not not permanent residents.
But we do, our business is all registered here, so that's what we're kind of working on with our lawyer at the moment. Everything's a little bit undecided right now. It's still in the law has to be passed through the diet and everything. So hopefully that will come through in May. We're in a good position. You know, you have to look at it being in business, especially photography. You know, the shooting part, we all love it, but if this is it for us, and for like probably everyone on the panel, like this is our full-time gig. This is what we do. There's no backup plan for us. This is how we live. This is how we put food on the table and how we pay our rent. It's full-time for us. So, you know, we are lucky we've got cash flow, not as much as we thought we would have. We've sat down and done our financials, so we're okay 3 to 6 months, and then we need to reevaluate things after that. But yes, there will be financial help, but it's a bit confused at the moment.
Right. So you guys are in that gray area, sort of in limbo, just because you're not Japanese citizens. You live in Japan, so you're not eligible for financial assistance from the country of Japan, but also because you're not living in Australia, you're not eligible for assistance from aid in Australia either.
Yeah, exactly. So we're hopeful. Yeah. Anyway.
So, Salvatore, if you and Sarah could talk a little bit about because Italy was so hard hit so early, what have been the work restrictions that have been put in place on you guys, and what has the government come up with any kind of aid or relief package for you?
So they locked down everything the 10th of March, and we become red zone immediately. I mean, Italy, everything happened like in 2 weeks, and after we realized they locked down everything, and after, let's say, at least in my area, and what I heard from the news, on the TV, on social media, after 10 days, actually there was nobody out. Because, you know, once they come up with a restriction, then you need like a couple of days before they start really understanding what's going on. Because the problem is that if you're not sick, you feel good, and you feel like there's no reason why I should stay stuck at home. But then after 1 week, when you start hearing all the bad news of what's happening, then you realize that you need to stay at home. And that's the reason why after 1 month, it sounds crazy, but after 1 month, now we start hearing good news. Less infection, less death, and we started to manage it. And go, Greg.
No, so Sarah, you were in that early hard hit area. So what did you see, and how quickly were restrictions put in place?
I can't remember the exact dates, but I know we were. There was some. It sort of happened very gradually, but very, very quickly. And Lombardy was locked down fairly quickly, and before the whole of Italy was locked down. And it was hard and fast, I'd say, in that we are not allowed. We're allowed out once a week to shop, and that started very, very early, a lot earlier than the rest of the world, the rest of the globe, I think, that hard restriction, which the police are enforcing very, very, very heavily. I've noticed in the UK, it's the police are much more polite about it. You know, they sort of ask, you know, and also the government is asking people, could you please maybe not, In Italy, it's just no. you just don't. You have to print a piece of paper stating why you are going to a certain place. This piece of paper changes every couple of days. You've got to print out a new one. You have to have it with you, stating where you're going and why.
And you need to write where you're going exactly.
Yes.
So
yeah.
that means if the police stops you in some area of the city, you should be able to write on the paper why you're here. Where do you live? Where you're coming from, and where are you going? So
there's no,
exactly.
no spontaneous travel.
Exactly.
You've got to have a mission when you're going.
Yes.
You cannot.
So
No. There's not even going for a walk. We're allowed within 200 meters of our house. So it is very strict. But I'm very grateful. I'm extremely grateful, because if it weren't for that severity of you have to follow the rules, it would be a lot worse than it has been. So I have no problem with that whatsoever, and you do get used to it. You do get used to the tight lockdown. It feels very hard to begin with, but you get used to everything. It looks a little bit, the anxiety peaks, and then you just get a new rhythm, a whole, like Tracey and Dee said, it's just a new normal.
Well, it's very strict. It's very strict in comparison to what we've been seeing in the U.S. because, I mean, even up until just 10 or so days ago, they were still trying to have spring break get-togethers in Florida, and the governor of the state had to actually ban people from going to the beach. Some of the large religious organizations are still trying to gather people together for large church services. In fact, I think a minister in Alabama got arrested for that, but yet the state of Georgia, I think, still allows people to gather for church services. So,
well, one of the first. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that one of the first things that were on lockdown, funerals and weddings were the first things to be stopped. So even funerals, that was from the very beginning.
It's interesting that you say that, because I actually had to attend a funeral this past Monday for the 28-year-old son of one of my neighbors who unfortunately passed away very quickly to a very aggressive cancer. And it was a very small gathering, and social distancing rules were implemented very strictly, and it was only a graveside service, and we all had to spread out throughout the cemetery and not come in contact with anyone and give everyone adequate space. So, and it's really in those situations, it really is unfortunate, to not be able to be there and be able to comfort that family in a time of need. I was going to go up to Cliff and Jose and see if you guys wanted to add anything about the shelter in place, the sort of lax shelter in place, the very loose shelter in place restrictions that we've had here in the U.S.
Well, we're on different coasts, Jose. How about you on the West?
We've been pretty lucky. Our governor, Gavin Newsom, put in shelter in place pretty early. March 19th was the day that he put that shelter in place out. We got 40 million, population here, and just based on the numbers, I think we're so lucky that this governor really was smart enough to put that shelter in place so soon. I think we've got like 20,000 cases, 540 deaths or so last I checked. And it's been almost a month now. But the town where we live in is I've never seen anything like it. It's pretty eerie. It's pretty crazy. But we are very lucky, I think, just on the West Coast compared to like where you're at, Cliff. On the East Coast for sure.
Well, I'm just outside of Philadelphia. The hardest hit has been northern New Jersey. For those of you around the world, New Jersey is basically cut in half, affiliation with New York City, and then south of that is affiliated with Philadelphia. I'm in the southern part. It's not that bad down here, but New Jersey in the United States is the most densely populated state in the United States. Even though there's 40 million people in California, we are a more densely populated state. Our governor has done some pretty good things, but you know, when you're that densely populated and when you're that close to New York City, you're going to have infections. So we've had a lot of death. We've had a lot of infections. In fact, we've had the second most outside of New York. Things have been pretty much shelter in place here. One of the things that's been a concern for us here is food. I'm not going to a grocery store. I'm just not doing it. There are too many people in this area. There are too many, most likely, in my opinion, and my feeling is too many asymptomatic people walking around. I just got a pickup. This is not even a delivery. A pickup supermarket service. The closest date that I could get was April 28th to get a pickup of food. The earliest delivery would have been May 3rd. I mean, Whole Foods, we have 2 Whole Foods. I have a Whole Foods a mile and a half from me, and I have one 5 miles from me. No pickups available at all whatsoever for the foreseeable future. Nothing. So this is going to be a concern. The food supply, I'm not saying it's going to be an issue. I'm concerned for it. I don't know what's going to happen where I am because it's so densely populated. So many people are clamoring for food and they're hoarding like hell. So, you know, we have not been as fortunate as California because you have a governor who really actually did something out there, Jose. He should be admired and followed by every governor in our nation. For the people in Italy, we were watching you, and you were the canary in the coal mine that this country didn't follow closely enough. And listen, I'm not a politician. I'm a friggin' photographer. But what goes on right now, it scares the shit out of me. And I'm going to be 58 in a couple of weeks. I'm staying the fuck home. So that's all I'm doing.
It is interesting, you know. It's like it is like there's these new rules of social engagement, even when you do go out, you know. And now everyone's wearing the masks and the gloves, and that's actually been recommended here in the United States to wear a mask when you go out. Although they're
eBay $60.
But it's almost like when you do go out, there's like these new rules of social engagement because everyone sort of looks at you like you're a threat. And it's almost like you're afraid to even say hello to someone. And so it's almost like you have to wait until you sort of get that nod of approval that, okay, it's okay to engage me. So Marcus, what have you and Rocco, what have the restrictions been like in Australia? What kind of conditions are you having to live under?
We're limited to 2 people. That's it. 2 people. You can go for a walk, but it can't be more than 2 people. So when you go into a supermarket, it's now limited number of people that can go in. So you have to queue up outside, so that you're not too densely populated inside the supermarket, so you're not breathing on each other. But the social distancing side, the majority of people get it, but there's still a lot of morons out there who are oblivious to what's going on. You know, you're walking in a park, and parks are pretty big, yeah? Like, you've got a lot of space. They will go for their run, and they'll run right on top of you virtually. Like getting one of those, you know those big hands you use when you go to a football game to wave your thing. I want to get a wooden one of those and just slap the bejesus out of some of these people. Because what part of social distancing aren't you getting? You know, and that's the frustrating. And I guess with any society, we can only run as fast as the slowest runner, really. And some people here forgot how to walk, let alone run. So that's the problem we're having. But we just got to do what we got to do. What about you, Marcus, in Queensland? What's it like up there?
Yeah, I think this is the thing that I think a lot of people are experiencing is that, we can go out to get food and, like I have a bag in my car now, that has a face mask, has hand sanitizer, has, disposable gloves and things like that. So taking every precaution, possible. But I think it's the mental side of things that's the hardest thing that I've experienced, from like walking down the street, taking, my dog for a walk. No one wants to make eye contact. People don't normally, people normally say hello when you pass them, saying, hey, g'day, there's none of that, you know what I mean? And I think that's the surreal, weird thing that, people, are finding, I think. And I've really noticed it. And hopefully, when I am going for a walk, I am trying to say hello. I'm trying to, not to get into anyone's space, but just to, say, like, we're human, you know what I mean? We all have feelings. And it was like what Tracey and Dee said earlier. I think that's the thing about, everyone watching at home, and we are all creatives. And we feel this. We feel everything that's happening around me. And, I mean, I've been really fortunate, what's happened to us has been minimal, but like I've been talking to friends and family, and people have had to lay off staff, people have lost their jobs, they've got no income whatsoever, and I just sort of, my heart goes out to them, and I'm just feeling it. And I think that's what we're all taking on, is like everyone else's feelings as well as our own. And I think that's the challenge for us. And that's why I guess I said earlier, I'm trying to get into the space to, even if it's just exercising once or twice a day, just to clear my head. And then I can reward myself with a glass of wine and not feel bad at the end of the day.
Exactly. Things are tough when you can't get a good day when you're walking down the street in Australia. So, and that brings me sort of to my next question. So, what's your daily routine? What are you guys doing? What are you guys doing every day? Are you trying to maintain like some office hours, or are you just taking it one day at a time and just playing it by ear? I mean, what are you preparing for? Marcus, why don't you jump back on that one?
For me, I think one of the things that I read from a friend, Jason Boland, who's a great photographer on sets for movies and things like that, he wrote, check yourself, make sure that, you're not on social media too much, and then and only watching the news maybe once a day to keep up with things. And I think he was really spot on, you know what I mean? I found it, I was watching news stuff too much. I was watching social media, and I think it was really starting to mess with me, personally, because like, not only are you looking at like the news, what's happening, but then like all of a sudden in your feed, there's all these conspiracy theories happening and all that. And then it's hard to decipher what's true and what's not. And so I realized that I've just got to stay away from that. And, so my routine is to try to do normal. I'm getting back into a lot of client work. I was having an exhibition next month, and that was going to be in a gallery showing, but now it's all going to be online. So, I've got that to prepare for. I've got a lot of stuff to do. Now I'm starting to get stressed about the work I've got to do and the work I haven't been doing. But that's exciting me at the same time. Like keeping busy, trying to spend a little bit more time with, the family, I think is really important as well. Like, counting our blessings at this time is, so important. I think reassessing and what's important. I'm sitting on our porch, most afternoons with my wife, when the sun goes down and just watching the sunset. Yesterday we had the most beautiful sunset, in Brisbane. And normally we don't get time to do that. So like Salvatore said, he's got this beautiful garden, and it's always been in front of his face, but now he's actually noticing it. And so I'm really thankful for the people around me, and all the friends out there that I've been chatting to as well.
So I'm going to throw this question up here from Latanya Henry, and she says, what are your best tips for staying focused and working daily on your business, even when you feel like everything's falling apart? So as you other guys kind of chime in about your daily routines, maybe kind of keep that question in mind and integrate some of that. So Sanjay, why don't you want to talk about your daily routine a little bit?
I'm still finding my routine, if I'm honest. It's curious. I know that my day needs to be made up of various things. I know that I want to wake up and train for a while, do a little bit of exercise, clear the brain fog, have some coffee, wake up juice, and then just get on with the day. You know, when I'm on my treadmill or outside doing weights or whatever it is, I'm thinking about what I need to do. And like, you know, a lot of people out here, even though we have our regular work stream has possibly dried up a little bit, there's still work we've got to deal with. And now suddenly there's a demand on our time, you know. I've been asked to do lots of webinars and that sort of thing, which has been amazing. We get to do things like this and speak to people and help to try and spread some positivity and encouragement and, you know, spread a bit of, you know, love and light out there. But, you know, for me, it is slightly day to day. I know that there are certain things I need to do within the business. I know there are things I need to do for the business. I know there are things I need to do for myself. I'm using the time to actually deal with some of the neglect around the house, things that just I've let go over the years just because I've been too busy. But also just thinking about the long-term strategy. You know, my team and I were working on reinventing and refreshing the website. Not just the website, but, you know, all the things I mentioned earlier on, things like the CRM system, just streamlining that, our data system, streamlining that a little bit more, just going belt and braces on whatever we can right now so that when we are busy again, we're ready for it. And not, oddly enough, the main anxiety I have right now personally is that I don't have enough time to get through the list of things that I want to do. You know, we all have, if you're like me, you write lists daily or every other day. And I have it in 3 tiers. I have the immediate stuff I've got to do here and now. Then I have the kind of intermediate stuff I can spread out over the week, maybe 10 days. Then I have the kind of the long-term list, the back burner stuff, the slow burner stuff. Now I'm looking at the entire list and thinking, I've got to get through the whole thing. I have no excuse not to get it done. And that's what's worrying me, is if I don't get that stuff done, I'm never going to get it done. If I don't get it done now, I'm never going to get it done. So in a sense, it acts like a little bit of a filtration process, a little bit of a distilling process where you can finally start to prioritize what's important. But at the same time, don't put pressure on yourself. Okay, and this goes for everybody. We all work in different ways. You know, Tracey and Dee were talking earlier on about how Tracey would be making lists and planning forward, and that's a little bit like me. And you know, and maybe some people deal with things day by day. Maybe some people think a little bit more, you know, intermittently, going macro, micro, thinking about what they need to do. But personally, for me, you know, my advice would be, don't put pressure on yourself, and don't feel guilty for not dealing with things immediately. Because now when we're sitting around idle, none of us are idle, not really. We all have stuff that we need to do. The stuff that we want to do. Do the things you want to do, because we all need coping mechanisms, especially now. We need coping mechanisms mentally, emotionally, physically. So if it means taking a break and going watching some TV, just watching some trash for like an hour, go and do it. If it means you need to go out and have a run, go and do it. Be socially responsible though, and keep your space, okay? You know, just touching on Rocco's thing earlier on about the runners, actually it's the walkers that tend to be a little, I find in my opinion, you know, my observation is that the walkers tend to be a little bit oblivious because they're going at such an easy pace that they're not looking, or they're not aware of what's coming. And the runners tend to be more hyper aware because they're trying not to fall over on something or run into somebody or trip over a dog leash or something like that. And also just touching on Cliff's thing about going to the shops, we don't have any deliveries at all. When I swipe through the app on the different supermarket chains, there are no deliveries at all. I get to the end of their availability and there's nothing, not even for pickup. So we're forced to go to the shops. And some of the shops are being a little bit irresponsible. Roshni and I went to a supermarket quite late at night the other day, hoping it was going to be quiet, but it wasn't. There was a queue going outside around the shop and they were forcing everyone to keep a 2-meter distance, which is great. But when we got to the front of the queue, the guy at the door said only one of you are allowed in. So the other one has to stand around outside in a crowd. So if there was a queue of people and they were all couples, because I'm not going to send my wife out on her own at the supermarket at 9 o'clock at night. I'm going to go with her. So I had to send her inside because I was going to make her stand outside on her own. So if everyone behind me were in couples, was there suddenly going to be a crowd of people standing outside observing the 2-meter distance? I mean, these guys need to think of these things a little bit more. And I think actually the Italian approach for having a permit to say, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing, and actually stopping people and being a little bit more forceful needs to be implemented everywhere, particularly here. You know, listen, I'm not going to take anything away from the services over here. The National Health Service are working at 11/10 and are bursting at the seams, are doing an incredible job. The police are doing what they can to manage people and manage situations. I was having a conversation with a friend on Facebook earlier on about how our neighbors are, you know, flouting the social distancing rules, and there's a group of people burning stuff in the garden, playing really loud music, with just being a nuisance as well, and not just being not really being understanding. We have this thing over here on Thursdays at 8 o'clock. Everyone stands outside on the front doorsteps and claps for the NHS or for frontline workers. So, you know, there's no point in applauding the frontline workers if you're then going to put yourselves and therefore the frontline workers at risk by flouting these rules. So, you know, guys just need to be a little bit more intelligent, a little bit more responsible. But, you know, routine-wise for me, I'm finding a structure. I'm trying to find a groove. And I would just say go at the pace that feels right. Go by feel. Just be aware of what's in front of you and be aware of what's further in the future. You know, just keep that context. That's all I'd say on that. So,
Salvatore, you and Sarah, since you guys have such tight restrictions on movement, what are you guys doing day to day? Let's I want to pick up the pace a little bit, so let's go to the concise answers.
Okay, I'll go then. Okay, so first of all, if you're locked down with your family and your loved ones, enjoy it, because I am mostly on my own, apart from when my daughter is staying with me half the week. I can't see my partner. My parents are in another country, and I don't know when I'll be able to fly and see them. So I'm by myself a lot. So that mental resilience is really important. And I totally agree with Sanjay when he says, you know, if you can't do it right now, if you don't have it in you, it's fine. Just breathe, just relax, let the dust settle, be kind to yourself. Just try to take care of yourself, and it does get better. It does pass. So my routine is actually, I mean, nothing changed that much for me apart from the isolation, because I work for photographers, editing and retouching. So I've been helping my editing and retouching clients get through all of their backlog, doing their albums, retouching. So a lot of that just carried on, and it's only just started to slow down now, in that the work that I do myself is still going, but I've had to let my employees go. I've had to ask them to take a furlough, so because I don't have enough for them, which they're very understanding about, but that's hard. But my routine consists of cleaning. I wake up early, just naturally. Must be an age thing, I don't know. I wake up usually quite early, coffee on my balcony to get some sunlight, because that's really important for the immune system. It's also good for your mood. So I'd sit on the balcony, drink my coffee, try not to get upset by the ambulances, the ambulance sirens, which have decreased. At one point during the peak, it was all day and during the night as well. Which, when you live in the countryside, is kind of odd. It's not it's not Manhattan. That has decreased a lot. But I try to reframe things in my mind. So if I hear an ambulance, I try and think of the heroes rushing to save somebody, rushing to help somebody. It's the helpers in action, rather than imagining somebody else on a ventilator. I try and switch up that image in my head. I try to exercise. That really, really helps. I know that if I'm feeling low or if I'm not feeling as motivated as I usually am, I know that if I exercise, that'll make me feel better. Now, unfortunately, I can't go out for a run, so that usually involves just dancing around my living room, doing some free weights. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
I was going to ask you when you can't go outside, what is sort of the exercise du jour when you're stuck in the house?
Yeah. Well, bopping around to music always works. Always gets my mood up, and then I do some free weights, just what I would do in the gym usually. And then I get on with my retouching work. I have some other remote clients that I teach. So I've been busy. I've been busy nonstop. Apart from just for a few days when I wasn't very well. So yeah, that mental resilience, trying to stay strong when being very isolated and particularly fearful for my parents. When Boris Johnson in the UK, sort of the first strategy was herd immunity. I remember hearing him say it, we're just going to let the virus go through the population and we'll develop a herd immunity. And I just thought, I'm not going to see my parents again. My flights were cancelled. I couldn't get on a plane, and that put me in a very bad place for a while. But I just want to say, oh my God, community and friends and the contact with my photographer friends all around the world has just been incredible. People just messaging me daily, how you doing? All of that has just been an absolute godsend, which is why when you asked me to do this, I just jumped at it because I know how important it is. And so if anybody is just going through a rough time right now, because it doesn't matter how lucky we are or how much better we have it than, let's say, the first responders or those on the front line, it's still a trauma. It's still a trauma that we're going through, and some people will manage it better than others. Some people, as Sanjay said, some people will be super productive and focused, and some people won't. Some people just won't be able to do it. And if you can't, that's fine. Just give yourself time. It will come. It does get better. There was a time when I really, really did not feel good at all, and I feel great now. I'm feeling, this is my life now, and it's fine. It's fine. This is the new normal for a while. We will get to the other side. I'm not worried about the business, about when I say the business, the industry as a whole. I'm absolutely positive that when this is over, and it will be over, we're all going to be absolutely fine. We just need to hang in there and hang tight and get through it. That's the key. Just holding on.
So Salvatore, what's been your daily grind?
Well, I'll wake up in the morning a little bit late now. Usually wake up at 7 this time. Doing this forcing time staying at home, I wake up at 9. So have breakfast, take my dog out for a walk. And then at 10 o'clock, I start working because I still have to design some albums because thanks God, I do a lot of weddings per year. So I'm almost done with my last year. I have my last 10 weddings to design and I'm finished. But after that, at 6 o'clock, I stop because I have appetizer with my wife with wine and some, like typical appetizer we do in Italy. I always do that because after 1 week staying stuck at home, I said to my wife, you know what? We need to organize an appetizer at 6 o'clock every day. So it's an excuse to stop working. And so I have time to stay with my wife. And after that, then later at 8 o'clock, 8:30 p.m., I have dinner, watch TV, and that's it. But I come up with the idea this morning, because, of course, my clients are calling me and I'm calling them, postponed weddings, like I said before. But also today, the owner of reception environment called me just to know how it's going because we are good friends. And I said, you know what? You know what I'm going to do? Because I have time now, I was thinking to call all my reception environment, all my friends that I have here in my area, and telling them, you know what? I have some pictures that because I'm a big fan taking pictures in the reception because they're always beautiful. So I love taking pictures there. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna go through all my weddings and pick up all these pictures, and I'm gonna share it with you. Or maybe we can design an album, or maybe we can design a magazine, or maybe we can do some prints. So maybe it will help you. I don't want no money. I'm not doing this for business. I'm just giving some help because maybe they want to. Because now, as we have hard time, they have hard time as well. So maybe you can share your images to social media, to your website, and I'll give it to you with my name, of course. So it's a way to improve my name and my photography in my area. And I think that I'm giving some help to them. So he was very happy for that. And he said, you know what, you had a good idea. Can you please check these images? And that's what I'm doing now. This is the first thing I'm going to do, not tomorrow because it's my day off, but on Monday. And another thing that I'm thinking to do is to call the hairdresser because I don't have much to do. So I'm going to stay at home for sure, at least until the 3rd of March. So I need to get out with something. So I'm thinking to design a small album and give it as a gift to the hairdresser with the bride that we have done together. So again, I'm giving it for free, but at the same time, it's working for my friendship with the other, with the hairdresser, but also it helps me to all the clients that come in can see my job as well in a wedding album or in a small album. They can see that. So you see, I'm always trying to find out a way to do something, because I this is my life. I mean, I love photography, as all of us love photography. So I can't stop working because that's my life. I love to do that. So that keeps me away of thinking of bad things of what's happening all around the world and keeps me busy. So like Sanjay said, he said good thing about, I'm afraid that this time is going to finish. And then I'm going to say, wow, now what am I going to do? I don't have enough time. So you're right, Sanjay. You're right.
Cliff, you and
it's
Jose,
amazing how we could just fill our time.
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
Cliff, you and Jose want to jump in real quick?
Go ahead.
This is my quarantine, buddy. This is Chloe.
Nice.
So I spend a lot of time alone here. My kids they go back and forth to their mom. So we go week on, week off. They're 22. They're about to graduate college, even though they won't walk through commencement. So they're here every other week. I'm not going to go into my daily routine. What do I do? It's friggin' boring right now. I'm bored out of my gourd. I have a studio manager that does still a lot of my daily client activities. We actually just had a nice print order the other day. I opened up the CloudSpot email and I almost fell over. One of the things that Marcus was talking about, just very quickly, we have to remember that there are still people working out there. There are still clients that still have money. They're still going to spend it. So awesome. So it's not like we're going to be penniless. I think, put out a notification for some, hey, how about that parent album we were talking about? Do some pre-designs. Get some things in the hands of clients so they can look at. Maybe they'll buy. Anyway, time is warping. And Sanjay made a good point about not being guilty, about not being so productive. I'm never productive. I just take pictures. Okay, my studio manager is productive. So what I'm thinking about right now, because the time is moving in such a weird way, I become a vampire. I might not go to sleep until 3. I sleep for 2 hours. I wake up, sleep for 2 hours, wake up. But I started thinking in terms of time and how it's been different. We have hours in the day. Now I think of days being my hours. There are 7 hours in my day, meaning next week is like tomorrow. So next week is like the new tomorrow. So there's 7 days. I don't look at it going by in an hourly fashion because I'll drive myself fucking crazy because I'm going stir crazy. Well, my kids aren't here. It's just me and Chloe. We talk to each other. I take her for walks. I have a gym downstairs. I do that. I do plenty. You can only watch so much Netflix. But if you look at time differently, it's been helping me. And also on what Tracey was talking about, I said this on Facebook last week, and it seemed to help some people, and I was told this by a shrink friend of mine. The more you realize you have no control, the more control you have. I'll leave it at that.
Right.
Yep.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Jose, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'm kind of an anxious person. I'm one that needs to be doing something constantly. And one thing that I would recommend for people is get up in the morning, take a shower, or work out, take a shower, get ready for the day. Like do your hair and whatever. Just live your life as if nothing really was happening, as far as like making you feel like it's time for you to just get to your desk and be productive. The first couple of, I think, days for me were a little bit rough. I would actually say the first couple of weeks. This is my 27th day, I think, in quarantine here. The first couple of weeks were rough. I mean, it was like I'm just running around like crazy. Like, what do I do? What do I do? Who do I talk to? And getting up every morning, working out is really important for me. Getting ready for the day. I don't have a lot of hair left, but I still do my hair here and there. And I literally will go down my phone address book, and I will every day pick 2 or 3 people I haven't talked to in months or years and just call them. Hey, how's it going? How are you? I want to know more about what's going on with you. And it's such an amazing thing, because that starts other conversations about other things that like I never even thought about. And then I start thinking about other projects, and but I'm still working in the office. I mean, I'm still in the studio. I mean, I brought my studio to our home, but I'm working at, I would say, at least maybe giving myself 5 or 6 hours a day to still work, email people, and cook a lot at home, which is awesome. I don't think I've cooked much ever in my life, which is really cool. Who knew that I could actually cook something? And enjoying our home. I mean, I think it's been so awesome, because Joel and I, my husband, we travel so much. He does his own weddings. I do my own. In some cases, we get together and we do weddings together, and we travel together, which is really great. But we do so many destination weddings, so it's really nice to actually be home for such a long period of time and just not be crossing in the air, really. But we've been enjoying our time together. But I'm ready. I'm ready to start shooting. It's crazy. I'm like, But you know what?
I'm with you.
Actually,
I'm with you.
I'm pulling up some like old school cameras, and like I shoot mostly film, so I'm photographing a lot of personal work, which is really cool, and putting that stuff on my print shop, which is great. So it's good. I'm trying to keep as positive as possible.
Absolutely. So I want to I'm going to jump in with a few questions here from some of the viewers. So this is a question from Fora Yavari. It's a question to Marcus and Rocco. Do you still have clients in your studios? Any portrait shoots? How are regulations regarding this? I think maybe we've been over that, but I'm assuming nothing at all, right?
Absolutely. No, number one, I don't think we're classified as an essential service, and more than 2 people at any given time together. So that's going to make, portrait shoots or anything like that impossible. But also, you have to set an example and be sensitive to the fact that you might have the virus and not know, and you might give it to someone. So really, at the end of the day, this whole, stay home stuff, it's there for a reason. We're doing all our consult via Zoom or via Skype, whatever the client prefers. Even like with, and if we got stuff to deliver to the client, it's couriered out to them. So that's it. Even with the capture to print stuff, I had a lot of teaching people how to print and so on, which were, in-person consults. we've changed those to online consults. So we film stuff, and that's actually, delivering content in a very different way, which is probably the way we'll do it, moving forward, which is really, really, really good. But really, no shoots and no, coming in physical contact with clients, at least for us. I don't know about you, Marcus. What are you doing?
Yeah, I went to the studio probably about a week and a half ago, to pick up some frame molds that I was working on with a client to, put an order through. So I just brought all of those items, back home, and so this is my home office, and really just been working from here. So really, shoots are a no-go zone for here, other than you can do a wedding under 5, but I think that's very minimal, and I don't know really anyone doing that. From a client perspective, I think no one wants to come into the studio anyway. Everything's gone a little bit quiet. I think people are, a bit cautious, about what they're spending and making decisions. And I mean, we're finalizing a few orders here and there, especially like others have said about wedding albums. That's been great. They're coming through still. And, I think because people got time to do their selection, so I've been able to work on those. And the odd portrait, finaling orders, but unfortunately a lot of that's just sort of, come to a halt. I'm very confident that, that will all come back online as soon as there's a little bit of consumer confidence out there. And, and I think one of the things is to realize is, and to think about is that I know that we've got our own situations. We're looking at family and friends who've got situations, and maybe things aren't going, as well for them, but there's still a lot of clients that, that we have where, in retrospective, they're probably not being too adversely effective, even though they're financially, that is, and cautious. But is to keep that in mind, is not to put out our own, beliefs, and limit ourselves, from what actually clients might be going through. So what might be happening for you as a photographer at home, there's going to be a portion of your clients where that is not the same. So you need to separate it and think about separating that. So, so for me, the studio is a very important part of it, and, and bringing a few things back here and there, but definitely not seeing any clients, and there's definitely no shoots and things like that.
So Chaba here is asking, my fiance is extremely vulnerable. We need wedding incomes this year desperately, but I'm anxious to do weddings before there's a vaccine. How do I get this through to my clients? Jose, you want to take that one?
Ooh, oh my goodness. It's so difficult. It's really hard to say. I mean, I think we're all in such a different situation in different countries and all of that. I mean, I think at this point, it's really taking it day by day. And week by week to see, how things will be lifted over at least here in the U.S. I mean, I think it's hard to predict what's going to happen. I mean, try to work on other avenues of making income, like album designs or reprint orders or things like that might potentially bring in a little bit more income versus having to focus so much about booking weddings this year. And I think, Cliff mentioned this, and I'm so on the same page. I think that, this year is going to be rough. There may not be a wedding we shoot this year, and I'm hopeful that that's not the case. But we have to start thinking that way, unfortunately. And so think of other ways of making income, like albums, reprints, other products, other things that you can do to help bring in income.
And Tracey and Dee, how do you guys feel about, are you going to be ready to rent out and shoot a wedding anytime soon?
Well, all of our weddings have postponed. I think the next one we have is September, but even our September and November couples are now starting to come through and
just have the conversation.
Yes, the what if conversation that it's not happening. So at the moment we're putting, contingency plans in place to figure out what happens there. But 99% of our focus is going to be that we will be, ready to start shooting again in September. That's where we're hopeful, and we're placing a lot of our, just the belief that we have to move forward, and that life finds a way of moving forward. And even if that means that weddings will be, like I said, will be smaller or altered somewhat. But if it means that we're not shooting weddings until next year, then we're starting to, we've only just caught our breath just now. So we're probably just starting to really think things through, because what Jose was just saying about things changing day by day, that's the way it is now. But for us, for the last 6 weeks, they had been changing hour by hour. We were getting different reports while we were traveling, and we were stuck in airports, and it was really a frantic situation. So now that things are changing day by day, I feel even better. So the thing is that day by day, the days can seem really long, but as a whole, when I think back on 2011 as a whole, it's kind of just a blip now on not a blip, trying to,
minimize what happened.
Minimize it. I just mean that year was probably the most productive year of our entire business, and set us up for where we are now, and for where we ended up going. We had that kind of thought of, with desperation comes inspiration. I know people hear it, but for us, it was really like that. We didn't even realize that we were, coming up with ideas or
even if there were little things, even if it wasn't related to photography. And part of us sort of moving into the planning side was thinking out of photography too. I know we're all in it, but what's the collective that we all share? We're all in the wedding industry, so we can try and navigate that and perhaps think in a different way and think what other transferable skills we might have. Very unfortunately, we realised in 2011, in situations like this, we'll be the first industry to be impacted, and we will be the last to recover. So if we know that, it's a starting point. Lockdown won't be forever. For us right now, it's May 6th. So as soon as May 6th happens, you can be sure
we'll be hustling.
We'll be hustling. But sort of that's where we're at right now. Nothing really
Nothing
to
is,
get dressed for until September. I suggest trying on a pair of jeans once a week.
I will say what everyone has said about taking care of themselves is really, really important, because it was the one thing that we didn't do last time, and we're living proof of it now. But the point was that prior to 2011, we ran the Tokyo Marathon. We were fit and healthy, and we were just on top of the world. And then when it happened, we did 24/7, just heads down, business to try and just get out of whatever situation we were in. It was just 1 year. It was 18 months. It was so dark. I can't talk about how dark it really got for us in that year, not knowing what was going to happen. And we never then pulled out of it, because we just kept working. And that's where...
So do the opposite.
Do the opposite of what we've ever done.
You'll be fine.
But it's something that's our biggest thing now, is because we do work a lot. Nothing has really changed. In fact, talking about the supermarkets and stuff, we have
we're very lucky. We're here in Shinjuku. We live on the noisiest streets. So sometimes when you look outside, you're like, really? State of emergency? But our building, we have a convenience store in it. We have a drugstore in it. We have a supermarket in it. So we're pretty
part of our quarantine is going down to the supermarket occasionally and using that as our pantry.
Yeah.
But but the thing is, like everyone's saying, it's a different situation for absolutely everyone, and we can feeling connected. I think Jose said it before. I've never felt so connected in my entire life to on this sort of level. I usually let Dee do all the communications, but shooting for us, shooting is only shooting and editing is perhaps about 20% of our business. The rest of the business is about connecting, client contacts, networking, planners, vendors, and none of that has changed. So we're still trying to only fill 20% of our time. And that 20% of our time has been going into stuff that, what Sanjay was saying, stuff that might have been on the back burner. So I don't feel like anything has changed for us very much in terms of working hours or the way that we're doing things. We're just bringing in new elements. And listening to Marcus saying that he goes and watches the sunset with his wife and that, we've got to do that. Yeah. I've got to go and do that.
Send us photos. Please send us photos.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to make it, just listening to you today, I know I have to make it a part of my life. And this is what it's all about. And the last thing I'll say before, because I know that Greg will want to give me the wind up, but I think that the one thing that we have been doing, which I've never done before, we're kind of finishing work around 5 or 6 o'clock every day, which is crazy because we are going online and having our quarantinis with our friends. Like we're having drinks with our friends in Italy, and we've had drinks with friends in Melbourne, and we've had, like, I'm actually socially connecting. That's a big deal for me. And I feel like I want to remember how this feels when all of this is over. I want to remember, all the new ways that we learned how to connect, all the new ways we learned how to work, how we learned how to play. Like, I'm learning skills, and I know that Dee is too, maybe not as much as me, because she's always been a social person, but this is a really, really important part of self-realization, and I think that that's perhaps what we'll all go through. It's a communal event, but we'll all come away individually with a lot of important lessons.
Great. Here's a really
you didn't even cut me off. I cut myself off.
Here, let me see. Here's a really good question from JVS. How's the group dealing with studio rent and landlord property owners? Has anyone been cut any slack on studio rentals? Go ahead, Cliff.
Well, I own my building, so I rent it from myself. So that's a relax. So that's really difficult. I've got, and I know this. I'm joking, but here's a kind of dilemma. Between my home and my studio, I pay $33,000 a year in property taxes alone. What I'd like to know is, where is that property tax relief? There is none. There may be some income tax deferment. We're being deferred until July. Funny enough, what was happening was the first quarter was going to be due, for all of you LLCs and S-Corps out there. The first quarter was supposed to be due April 15th. That's moved to July 15th. The second quarter is usually due June 15th. They just moved that back to July 15th as well. That happened today. In terms of rent, I think that's a problem, because when you have rent and you delay the rent, unless the person who owns the building is getting a break on their mortgage payment, it's a chicken or the egg. There's an issue there. So it's going to be a whole chain reaction if people start stopping or delaying paying rent, unless those people are getting some mortgage relief from the banks, which they friggin' should, because we bailed the goddamn banks out in 2009. Something's got to give, Greg. Something's got to give there.
So did you send a couple of guys out to break your kneecaps for you if you're not going to be able to pay your rent this month?
I paid it.
So what about some of you other guys? Sanjay, do you lease studio space?
Yeah, my office. Yeah, my office space is it's rented, so we have a slightly unusual agreement with our landlords, but so far there's no movement. That's something that we're discussing with them. We're negotiating with them. They are very big landlords in this area, so they own lots of property, and I don't know their inner workings and ins and outs, but my understanding is that they own a lot of property over here and that have done for generations. So I'm not even sure that they owe a mortgage or anything like that on this property or any of the other properties. But even if they don't on this one, they do on others. So, landlords across the world have a common issue, whether it's a commercial landlord or a residential landlord. If their tenants struggle with their income, it works through a chain. It's like when you're buying a house, if there's a chink in the chain along the way, there's a problem. So I can understand their point of view for not wanting to make a knee-jerk reaction now. It causes all sorts of other issues, because if there's a delay in the rental payment, how do they do this? Do they extend the contract by however many months they delay? In which case there's a whole lot of legal loopholes to jump through and all the costs attached to that. Or do they recalculate, with a gentleman's handshake, to say that we'll just add up the difference and divide it amongst the remaining months? There are all sorts of complications that we need to be aware of it and be mindful of as well. So right now we're just still paying our rent, and this all goes back to the whole business of having a relationship with your brides and grooms, where you can explain to them the scenario that we're in. We have expenditures. As when we run businesses, the business costs you money to run. There are expenditures within the business, rent, insurances, so on and so on. And you still have to continue to do that. And over here in the UK, there are lots of reliefs coming at different levels. It's incredibly complicated. I don't understand any of it. Thankfully, my wife is more astute with those sorts of things, because that's kind of her background. So that's cool. I just kind of lean on her for that. But, I don't think the systems are fully in place yet. I think they've made announcements in terms of what they're going to do and the intentions. The guys behind the scenes are working very hard to get the regulation sorted so that they can implement these systems and reliefs and whatever else they're trying to do at the different levels and the different tiers. There was a period for the first 2 weeks where they were making announcements in terms of, the furloughed staff are going to be paid 80% of their income, and then there were going to be grants for people who are paying business rates up to this much, and a larger grant for people paying business rates above that, and so on and so on. But the thing is, we haven't started receiving the correspondence yet, so we're not able to implement that. That right now we're having to live off whatever remaining cash flow we have and whatever cash flow clients are providing to us, just through an emotional understanding with our brides and grooms. So you've got to do what you can to just try and remain fluid. Work with your clients to try and implement an understanding now, right? And just everyone needs to lay their cards on the table so that, everyone can be prepared. You're ready to make a move, to be able to be helpful, not to make a counter move. This isn't about playing chess right now. We all need to work together. There's enough anxiety and tension out there already, and there's enough conspiracy theories without having to have awkward conversations and relationships with your clients. They're expecting a service from you. They're anxious about their weddings. They want them to happen. We're anxious about being able to get out there and shoot the weddings for a start, because that this is what we live for. But also just be able to put food on our tables and keep a roof over our heads as well. So lay your cards out, be transparent, be honest, and say, ask what you need. Ask your clients, what do you need? And then when that's done, say, this is what I need. Let's work out, some sort of arrangement to keep everyone happy as we possibly can be right now. Bearing in mind, goalposts are constantly moving. They're moving a lot slower now, admittedly, but they're still moving. We don't know how long our lockdown's going to go on for. We think it's going to be extended over here. It was supposed to be 3 weeks originally, but it will be extended. The reliefs, they're not coming quick enough, and we have to do what we can to make ends meet in the meantime. So taking time to review your expenditures, go through your, my wife and I spent some time last week just going through our direct debits and things like that, just to make sure that we're not paying unnecessary subscriptions and just things we don't need, calling up suppliers. For example, in the office here, I have lease lines, and I need lease lines because my servers sync to offline servers, offsite servers. So I need dedicated data up and down. And before all of this, I was fine paying what I was paying. Now suddenly I'm thinking, is there a better service since I had it installed? And I'm speaking to various companies, and they're coming back with better offers because they want the business too right now. So take the time and speak to your suppliers, negotiate better rates for different things, and trim your outgoings. So it's not just about the income; it's about the outgoing as well. So it's kind of like the adage of, any of you have ever bought property, that you make the most profit when you buy the property because you negotiate the biggest discount at the start. So it's not about bringing the money in, it's about controlling what goes out too. And I'll put my hands up. I'm the first to say I'm a big spender. When the paychecks come in, I know I've got a list of things. I'm a geek. I want to buy equipment. I want to buy stuff. It's most photographers are geeks and they want to do that kind of thing too. And, we all have to sit on our hands right now. We have to be as frugal as possible. So, until those measures come in place from the government, we've just got to do what we can to be intelligent and logical.
Anybody else? I know, Marcus, I think you... is anybody else leasing studio space that's had to seek any relief from the landlord?
Mine is it's called leasing in Italian, which is basically a rent to purchase agreement. I spoke to them yesterday and they said, they can give me a pause, basically, time off from having to make the payments, which is great. And Sanjay, okay, controlling expenditure. Do you know what? This is a lost art. Now, I'm like you. I've been a spender all my life. I've never paid attention to. I've always been like, life's short, live it. Who cares? Penny pinching always sounded so miserable to me. Like, who wants to penny pinch their way through life? I hated that. Last year, through a series of personal circumstances, I was forced to completely rethink that. And do you know what? You would not believe. It's a lost art. We need to speak to our grandmas or mother-in-laws or aunts, who've got that old mentality of making the household budget stretch out. It's incredible what you can do. You really can. I mean, you can live on a lot less than you think you can. It's incredible.
I think back to, sorry to cut across, but I think back to the time when I was a student and you had to make the pittance last the entire term time, and you found every possible way to save money and to find money and make it really last as well. I'll do an Instagram video on this, but I taught myself how to cut my own hair when I was a student, so this is coming in really handy right now. But sorry, back to you.
No. I was done. I just wanted to say, a huge thing about surviving this is not just finding ways to make money, but it's how to eke it out and how to last this difficult time. Just with really, really smart. As you said, that one of the main things is go through, cancel all of those subscriptions. Now some things I don't want to stop everything because I want to support. For example, I had a good lesson. If I could just quickly say this, because I think it's kind of positive. I felt a little bit like I don't want to contact my clients to try and sell to them, to try and maybe ask them if they want to buy some parent albums or, hey, you didn't want an album, I know, but, I felt a little bit like I didn't want to do that, like it would be insensitive and somehow ugly to be asking for money. Now, my hairdresser sent me a message. Hi, how's everything? Just in case you need it, we've put together an emergency color kit and conditioning kit for you to do at home. So just let me know, and we can send it to you. And now it's not cheap, but I didn't feel like I was being sold to. I felt like they were caring about me, and I want to support them. So I was like, yeah, that's amazing. Fantastic. What a great idea. Now I'm going to be helping them. I did not feel like I was being sold to. And that's why I thought, you know what, Sarah, you need to rethink this and maybe reach out to your clients. Maybe maybe they want what you've got to offer. Now, I know that a lot of you are great salespeople and are much better at I'm not very good at that anyway, so it's even worse now. I feel like I need to rein that in. But I felt like that was a real lesson in learning that what we have to offer is valued and cherished by our clients. And
can I just add something to that?
Yeah.
Because right now in isolation, we have a lot of time to think, and we have a lot of time to reminisce, and we have a lot of time to miss our loved ones. And guess what we're all doing? We're trying to reach out in whatever way we can. And for the tech savvy people, they're getting onto Zoom or Skype or WhatsApp video or whatever it is. But for those who aren't, they're reaching for photographs.
Mm-hmm.
They're reaching for prints. And whatever happens, it's going to have value, whichever way you cut it. In the moment of crisis, when we're on the precipice, we change and we review. That's what we do. And the photograph is the vehicle for us to be able to review where we are, what we've done, what we're doing, where we're going, who's in our lives, who matters. And you're absolutely right. That's that model from the hairdresser is a really great stimulus, I think. And that's the way to do it. It really is. Think about what you can do to show your brides and grooms, your clients, whatever it is, your portrait clients, that you care. And right now, we're all feeling very emotional. We're all feeling very isolated, which ramps up the emotional level, doesn't it, for everybody? And you guys in Italy are way more isolated than the rest of us. We still have a certain level of freedom. You guys are locked down proper. And what are you guys doing? You're looking for connection. This is why we all watch all this trash on YouTube and the stuff that's sent to us in WhatsApp, and we go on Netflix and whatever else. But the meaningful stuff is the photography and video recordings, historical stuff from events, birthdays, weddings, that sort of thing. So it'll always have that value, and I think people are going to reevaluate or rediscover or even discover for the first time the value of that. So again, that reinforces when we reach the end of this, I think people are going to have a newfound appreciation for what we do.
Oh, completely. And also realizing what is no longer important. When you're in lockdown and you have all of a sudden all of the things you thought were so important, the clothes and the car and the car that hasn't been moved from the garage. Hey, I'm saving a lot of money in gas, I tell you. All of these things are not important. And I think everybody is going to realize that.
But I think there's an opportunity that exists right now to all the photographers out there that are listening in. Certainly over the last 5 years, there was definitely a shift and a move to deliver just digital content to our clients, and that might have been because we didn't have time, or our time was limited, or it might have been competition. With relating to other photographers, how you put your packages together. But I think, for a long time, photographers, myself included, that I realized this a few years ago, is that we were shortchanging our clients because, we weren't delivering the full service anymore. Where we used to do that in the past and offer them an album design plan and things like that. So I do believe there's an opportunity that exists right now that you can go back to all your previous clients and, talk to them about the possibility of having, a wall print for their wall or an album. And I know it's been suggested a few times, but definitely for those people that are finding it hard, that, one thing that I was taught, by a couple of really great photographers here in Australia is that, the more that you're in business is that you're building up a database of, people or past clients that can actually become, future clients again in relation to portraits. And I think that, on the other side of all of this will be a huge thing. Like portraits will be huge, like Rocco said as well. But right now we've got the ability to go back to all our previous clients and, check in with them and seeing, how can I serve you better? I know my business, changed, 3 or 4 years ago, where the studio as a whole was, we were doing over 100, 120 weddings a year. And I felt like I didn't have time for anything. Like I was bouncing, covering off so many balls left, right, and center. But now, that we're going back down to about 30 weddings a year, and I'm mostly shooting those weddings, is that I've got a lot more time for my clients now. So I can actually, go through and I'm a lot more invested in, having a beautiful album for them, having, some wall enlargements. And I think, like what a lot of people mention now, one thing that we do have is time. And I think it's the way we use that time could, benefit us and get us through all of this at the moment.
Can I say something?
Oh, yes. Sorry, Salvatore. Yes.
Marcus, I absolutely agree. A lot of it has to do to how you deliver yourself to get to that place. And I think what's important to remember, and I kind of remind myself of this, is how are people going to remember how you treated them or how you made them feel during this time? And that is really, really important in how we move forward with our businesses. Not only with our clients, but also with wedding vendors throughout, whether it's wedding planners, floral designers, venues, cake people. You can't imagine how many images I've given to all of these people over the last couple of weeks that I've had so much more time. And I'm writing these notes and just saying, hey, I appreciate you. Thank you for everything you do. And that's what I think, and people have said this, and this is why I bring this up, is the way you make people feel in this time is very important, and people will remember that. That in mind.
Jose, if I can chime in just for a second, Greg. Jose, I can't think of anybody in the world, frankly, who has better relationships with planners, magazines. I'm not blowing smoke. I think everybody agrees on that. Can you give anybody who's watching here, besides just giving images to planners and florists, what other things are you doing with your time to reach out to other business partners, other vendors across the board? What are some of those things that people can do to help these relationships right now besides just prints or files?
I mean, I think a lot of it for me has been just literally picking up the phone. We're all in this together, like you said, Cliff, earlier today in our conversation, and it's all about just picking up the phone and saying, hey, I'm struggling too. What can we do to brainstorm to get to a place where we are happy moving forward with our new clients, old clients, and that's what we try to brainstorm with some of these planners, because I'm very fortunate to have been and continue to work with some of the best planners in the world. And I connect with them. Hey, I'd love to do a Zoom. I want to see your beautiful face. Anything, and they're all excited to know that I want to talk to them, and likewise, because I think it's comforting to them to know that that we're all in this together and we want to help each other out through the process. So look, we've all forgotten about picking up the damn phone and talking to people. It's all about me. This is why I love film so much, because we still print 100% of everything we shoot. And guess what? Everybody now is picking up their freaking prints and looking through them while they have all this time and enjoying the tangible. And thank God that we've continued to do that, because people are calling us more so now to get more of that tangible, because, life happens. We lost some folks in our family, whatever it may be, and people want more of those prints, especially living in this digital world. So it's pretty amazing, actually, to be in this situation now.
Maybe prints will come back.
I hope so.
Well, so along those same lines, Jeff Allen here says, I'll be honest, I can't bring myself to market to past clients without feeling like I'm preying on their fears and their situation. I just feel like it's not the time. And then Natalie Lassini says, let's talk about how to offer and sell albums sensitively. Do you have any tips on how to structure an email like that thoughtfully?
This goes back to what Marcus was saying. Really, there's plenty of clients right now who are not struggling. I'll just say it that way.
Salvatore,
I think also the assumption.
Salvatore jump in.
I I was thinking about this. Maybe you can feel like bad that you contact someone and say, "Hey, do you want an album? Do you want to print me something?" I don't have nothing to do, so I want to make money. So of course you feel bad. But the thing is, maybe you can get in touch with all your clients that, like, I'm thinking about me, that have like 50% or maybe less, 40% of my clients from the last year that need to deliver my albums, right? That probably are, most of them are designed but ready to deliver, but I can't right now. So what I was thinking is, how can I know if some of them, like Cliff said and Marco said, maybe they don't have a problem. I mean, they're okay, they're fine, they are waiting for the album. So what happened if I create an email just saying, just get in touch with you, just because we've been a lot of time without hearing each other, want to know if everything is okay with your family, just saying that I'm here, whatever you need, attach an image about something, maybe you can attach an image of their wedding, or just attach an image that talks about the time that we are passing now, right now, that we all stuck at home, something like, cute to send, just to say, hi, I hope that you're good. And maybe they reply you. Maybe they say just, yeah, we are okay. What about you? And you start talking, and how can you know they come up and say, what about my album? And you arrive to the question without saying nothing. Just be friendly. Just ask, like, how are you? Which is actually, it's a nice thing in both ways. A human way to say how are you, you're taking care of your clients, you're thinking of them, so they can feel, oh, look, my photographer contacted me. He's so nice. And then you attach an image with some words, I don't know, whatever, we can think about it, but don't ask nothing, just say, how are you? I'm here. If you need something, you can call me and just text me. And from there, maybe you get somewhere. This can be an idea.
Rocco, do you have anything to add to that question?
I think you got to come across a soft-sell approach. Really, the idea is when you are contacting your clients, it's because you are concerned about them, about their welfare, first and foremost, like saying, and letting them know that you are there for them. And then, break into conversation, about their day and the fond memories you perhaps have of their day, and that you're still around if they feel the need to put a book together or something along those lines. I mean, obviously, each individual will structure something differently based on their own personality and how they want to connect to their clients. Everything you want to do is just send an email to say, let's see your album now, because I know you got a lot of time on your hands. That's not really being sensitive about the situation. Get in contact with them because you care, because you are care about their welfare, and because they're your clients.
Let me ask this question, because we said at the beginning, there are a lot of people out there that are hurting, and a lot of people, there's a lot of studies that, at least in the United States, there's a lot of people that couldn't even put $2,000 together in an emergency. And I know that in some of the Facebook photography groups, I've seen the question asked, do you have enough capital to sustain your business for the next 6 months without any additional income? And I have seen a lot of people say, oh man, I'm really hurt, and I've only got like $5,000 in the bank. I've got $6,000 in the bank, and that's what I've got to get by with. So what about the situation where somebody is down to their bank account is really down, and they've still got albums to do to clients that work that people have paid for, and now they've got to deliver it, and it's got to they don't have the cash flow. They're sustaining their business on cash flow, and now they don't have that cash flow coming in. What advice do you have them? Should they approach a client and say, well, we're just not fulfilling any albums right now. We're not fulfilling any products right now until our cash flow resumes. Anybody want to take a stab at that, Tracey and Dee?
Yeah, that's difficult. We wouldn't be putting that out there to our particular clients right now. Everybody that has bought an album is receiving an album. I want to keep all of our clients completely and utterly stress-free at this stage. We've turned into forms of therapists on many levels, talking through a lot of stuff that we might not normally touch on. But in the big part, I think a lot of our clients that we might reach out to, like we probably won't reach out in terms of maybe getting albums designed and things like that, because there's actually other stuff that I want to work on to get ready for what I think will be a bigger influx of money coming in later.
That's for us though.
That's like, for us, yeah.
For other people though, I don't know. We're always in different minds.
Well, actually, Natalie Lassini just in the comments just said one way to combat that cash flow issue is to try to upsell a little bit on the things that you do have to deliver.
Look, you can upsell a little bit. I mean, honestly, the natural progression in our industry as well is to be able to offer, you know, the family sessions, those more portrait sessions. If that's not something you've done, it's something you can possibly put out, reserve now, redeem whenever, those kinds of things. Even maybe like extending.
I can tell about
that
one.
Ahead, yeah.
There was one little thing that we did that brought in, it wasn't a lot, but it might be something for some people, but a client had contacted us and asked us to, we keep client galleries open for them to download their images. We also give it to them on either in prints or albums, whatever, but they also have an online gallery of where we keep their images for about three years. And when that gallery is about to be turned off, we send an email saying your gallery is going to be turned off. So we hope that you've got all of your images saved in a very safe place and the backup, and follow the backup information that we gave at the time. We had a client contact us and say, is there any way that you can keep my images online? I would feel better knowing that you have them saved. And we said that we could store them in our online gallery for about, did we come up with just like $100 a year? And anyway, so
they're there anyway.
They're there anyway. And out of the hundreds and hundreds of backlog, like weddings from over the years, we had done that, and 30 people just immediately just said, sure, we'll pay the $100 and you keep the photos. We have them backed up anyway. We're not ever going to throw them out, but people just like to be reassured. And it was a very, very easy switch. And I don't want to feel like we're preying on people, because these are things that people want. Storage devices, cloud devices, all of this stuff is stuff that's out there. It's about the way you word it and need it, and some people want it and some people don't. I know clients who we will reach out to perhaps for albums, and others that we won't. We all have relationships with people, but exactly what Marcus said, the wedding clients that we have, half of them aren't affected at all. We're affected in our community. We have people who are affected medically and have medical problems. There are people who have economic problems, and there's a very large portion, and especially the majority of our clients, are not affected at all. You have to almost not be offended sometimes when people are complaining that they've had to cancel their holiday, and you sit there and think, wow, what a disconnect. But the thing is that we're all connected in our own reality, and
I don't think we should lose the art of asking. I think it's okay to put it out to our clients and ask our clients if there are any services that we can provide at the moment. It's just all in the way that you ask. And it's really for us just to touch base. It's not a hard sell, because I really care about my clients. So if there's services and things that I can offer them, I'm just going to ask if they need them. If they don't want them, I'm not going to be offended. I don't think we're all in this together, so we're navigating it together. And if people feel like it's not the right time, they probably just won't reply to your email. That's okay, you know. So,
and I understand that's completely different for Italy and where you guys are in Italy, and perhaps maybe even where the UK is heading, and New York and stuff. Like, it's going to be location by location, but only you're going to know the situation. That feeling of a nation in grief or a nation in mourning, like that Italy is probably feeling right now. You'll know whether or not it's the right thing to reach out to people for albums and stuff. But but you know, where a lot of the world isn't in that same situation. We're just inconvenienced, and we're doing the right thing to save lives, stay home. We're doing this right thing, but that doesn't mean that life isn't going on. And we have to keep that in our minds first and foremost, because it is still going on out there.
Well, I just want to follow up with that, because the one thing you said about it is okay to reach out to your clients and contact your clients and let them know a little bit about what's going on with you. You know, I started off my intro here talking about how I wasn't protected contractually with a lot of my corporate clients, because they were trust-based relationships. I had worked with these people for years, and you know, after the shock wore off, I was actually able to reach out to a few of them and just kind of say, hey, you know, I realize we don't have a formal agreement for this, we don't have a formal arrangement for this, but it's because our relationship, we've known each other for so long, and we trust each other so well, and we've never had an issue. You know, customarily when there's a cancellation fee of 50% of the rate that goes along with that. Typically, it's customary for that to be included in a standard sort of corporate events contract. And I know we don't have that formal agreement in place, but you know, I'm basically unemployed, you know, for the next few months. So if there's a way that you could see that you could work that out with me, and we could maybe do some kind of a cancellation fee for now, I'll take that money that you give me now on the cancellation fee, and I'll apply that to another event down the road, and that's going to help me out in the short run, and that's going to help you out in the long run. And I would say that probably half the people that I reached out to like that were amenable to doing something with me like that.
It sounds like, listening to all of you, that the key thing here is talking to the clients, because a problem is solved immediately. We tend to assume that everybody's in a terrible situation, everybody's lost their job, we're preying on them if we offer them what we have to offer them. But a conversation with our clients will tell us if they've just lost their job, or if actually they're fine and they're annoyed because they just had to cancel their safari. That conversation then leaves it open so that we know what their situation is, even if we maybe haven't spoken to them for a few years. And we can take it from there. So I've just learned something from all of you guys, so thank you.
Greg, the original question, if I could, getting back to the people that don't have a whole lot of capital to work with, one of the issues that may start coming around for some photographers, wedding photographers specifically, is the need to find capital to make the albums that people may just be ordering from last fall. And if they don't have that money with deposits they're going to be getting now, there could be some issues, and even some legal issues moving forward if they can't produce these albums. One of the things that they might think about doing is getting a really good album design software, if they don't have one already, and over-designing these albums. Doing a pre-design for these people may be able to convince some people to spend well over and above what that album might cost, which will initially pay for the cost of the album, so they don't have to go to their savings. So if they can make up the difference with the little pre-design, that might be an idea that can help some people.
Yeah.
So anybody else have anything on that? Okay. I want to, so let's kind of go to a little bit of a speed round. I really want to pick up the pace here. We're already 3 hours in, and I want to wrap this up pretty soon, because I know especially Sanjay and Sarah and Salvatore are fading. So really quickly.
Chloe's losing her patience.
We can wait for the sunrise. I mean, I'm fine with that. The sunrise is nice here. It's beautiful in my garden.
So Chaba also says that, and I'll put that back up again. He says that he doesn't feel that people are really interested in booking photography at the moment. He got 30 plus entries since mid-March and not a single booking. Do you think things will stabilize? Now, I know Tracey and Dee, when I talked to you guys one day this week, you guys said that you were booking weddings right now, that you booked a few weddings right now for the future.
For next year, and that's on the plan.
Speed round here, guys. So speed round. Quick answers.
Okay, the speed round is that, yes, we are booking, but they've been in the planning branch. So we have booked 2 weddings just this week for next year to plan their weddings. What that means, in my mind, is that if people are booking the planners now, the photography will come soon enough. D?
No, I totally agree.
All right, speed round. But people are booking. We not just for Japan, but we've also booked a couple of destination weddings for next year. So it looks like people are also sitting at home in quarantine or lockdown and looking forward to their next travel. I mean, it's people are. It's hope. It's all about coping and hoping, right? So it's really. All right, D. Okay, that's my speed round. D gave me the wind up.
So I'm gonna jump down to Rocco. Rocco, how are your inquiries and your bookings? Is the phone ringing? Is
Non-existent
emails? What's going on? Non-existent.
Non-existent. They sort of started to slow down in the past 2 weeks. Zero. Once again, uncertainty. People don't know when they can have their wedding, so there's no point inquiring, for something that you don't know if it can actually go ahead and when it can go ahead. But having said that, we're still working on our marketing. We're still, pushing ourselves out there, and we'll just see what happens.
So, Jose, I know when I talked to you the other day, you said that some of the planners you work with was about 50-50. Some were just booking left and right for next year, and some were not taking anything. So, what are you seeing as far as bookings versus inquiries are going?
The inquiries are still coming in. What I've noticed though is that people are wanting a discount. They are wanting to negotiate more probably than in the last 5 years. So that part of it is kind of a bummer. But I will say I'm trying to stick to my guns. I'm trying to not have to lower that, but we are still booking a few weddings. We just booked a few for next year, so that's really, really promising. The problem that I'm having is 8 of my weddings for 2020 have postponed. Out of those 8, maybe 6 to 2021, and I've been pretty lenient about them choosing the date. So unfortunately, some of those are popular dates, and I've been able to just sort of give those to these wedding planners as sort of, because we're friends, and I'm not charging more for that. So I'm getting inquiries for those dates, and I'm already booked. So, because of the postponement.
That's the double whammy with it. There's a finite number of days. So you're either going to lose money now. Maybe you could reschedule and rebook, but you're still going to have that overlap. So either you're going to be booked and have to turn them away, or you're just going to lose money now. So it's kind of a double whammy.
Wedding planners, everybody, we all know that once this thing sort of stabilizes 2021, we may have to just double up. We may just have to work harder than maybe ever before. And some of these planners, we've gotten together and we're like, hey, they're going to suggest to their clients to have a Wednesday, Thursday wedding, and so I actually just postponed one of my 8 to a date for, what is it, on the Tuesday and Wednesday dates, so that's great, because then I can come home, still, chill for one day and then shoot again over the weekend.
That's where I think Tracey and Dee had a good point earlier, was about focusing on the smaller events and capitalizing on the engagements or the elopements craze that's coming on right now.
Not only elopements for us, we're getting a lot of requests for proposals. So all of that is weekday. We can be booked Monday to Friday. So it's just something to consider. Maybe add it to your marketing plan in these next couple of months.
We're just talking in terms of a smaller price point than the weddings. But you could do a small, if you're doing proposals every single day, that's bringing in a cash flow. People are proposing. Dee has had approximately 10 or something over the last 2 weeks of people wanting to set up,
and they're wanting it for August, September. I don't think things will have realised just then, to be honest, because it's all dependent on flights and airplanes and all of that kind of thing. So we're just not quite sure yet. And it's a bit hard. Like Greg said, we've got a finite number of dates. We're willing to work hard. I'm willing to book them in, but it will be all weekday.
We've had 3 weddings booked all for December 12th, rebooked for December 12th. obviously. So this is where I think it was Jose said something about the community. We're all helping each other and giving different photographers or asking people to come in. It's also, again, it comes back to what we were saying. It's about communication with your client. If they're rebooking for December 12th, but a client has already rebooked for December 12th just before them, there's nothing I can do about that. That's other than perhaps a split off or bring in more of our team. There's a lot of stuff that's going to happen, and but we're lucky. We're fortunate anyway. We get a lot of weekday weddings. Weekday weddings are a big part of our, a big part of our business model and a big part of our schedule. I love weekday weddings, so hopefully this will become what we were saying, another new normal for everyone else.
Okay, let me jump over Salvatore I'm sorry, go ahead, Marcus.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest positives I've taken out of the last week is, is that, like, I don't think concern is that, like, I haven't booked a wedding for the last 4 weeks. But normally I would be nervous about that. But for instance, like, I just know the positivity that's happening with the planners and the clients or the potential clients at home that are actually planning weddings. I think that is a really, really strong sign that, that's going to come. That's going to trickle down to us, within the next few weeks, months, and things like that. Just know that it's going to happen, and it is happening already. So hang in there.
I just wanted to get to Salvatore and Sarah about that because their areas were so hard hit and they've been under restrictions for such a longer period of time. So what's the inquiries versus bookings going on in Italy right now?
Sarah, please. Sorry.
For me, it's zero. Like Rocco said, nada. But that's completely understandable, and I'm taking that for granted because my clients are very few are Italian. They are usually British, mainly British, sometimes Irish, American, Australian, Canadian as well, but usually British, who fly to the area where I live and get married here. So at the moment, that is absolutely, obviously, out of the question for a lot of people. So I'm working on the assumption that I'm not going to get, I'm working on the assumption, I mean, my weddings for this year have been postponed to the end of the year and next year, but we're all aware that there will probably need to be another postponement. In terms of the future, though, I'm very positive about smaller weddings, elopements for my UK clients. I think that they just will not be able to wait to do that. I see a very positive future. A very difficult, very, very tough year, but once we get through that, I think things are going to be great. Maybe, I can't put a time frame on it, but I feel positive about the future for small
and Salvatore,
weddings.
how about you for bookings and inquiries?
Well, what I think that this moment, this month, and what we have passed, I mean, we cannot expect that someone is booking wedding for next year. I mean, it's really rare. If it happens, you're really lucky, because everybody at this moment is just watching, just waiting. They're not sure what's going to happen. Not talking about the weddings that we have already booked this year. I'm talking about the other ones that wants to book for the next year. They're waiting. So we need to wait maybe another month. Maybe for us in Italy that we already. Maybe we got, I hope so, that we got to the worst part of this moment. Maybe we need to wait another 2-3 weeks, and maybe someone's going to start calling us to book weddings for next year. Maybe this will happen later in UK, later in some other part of the world, and maybe in US even later. But we cannot think about that someone at this moment is going to book the wedding for next year. I'm not saying they're not booking. They will book it, but not now. This is my feeling, because my condition, I'll tell you very, very, very fast. In Sicily, everybody can get married from Monday to Saturday, so I'm very lucky. That's the reason why I do a lot of weddings per year. So that means that I move it something like 25, 30 weddings this year from May April and June to September, October, and December, right? And few of them to next year. Next year, I already have booked like something like 30, 40 weddings. So I'm really lucky for that. But what's going to happen that I believe that the weddings that they postponed this year, they're going to move to the next year. What's going to happen next year is going to be crazy. And I really feel that will be the same for everyone. Next year will be crazy. That's my feeling. I don't believe that next year we're going to be still here with this problem. We're going to go through this. I mean, I'm positive, and we need to think about it in that way. So this moment, let's say that it's normal that you're not booking weddings for next year. And you need to wait like a few weeks, 3-4 weeks, 1 month, and they will start booking for sure.
Okay, again, speed round. Yeah?
Say something really
Go ahead.
I really loved what you had to say there. I will say, though, that when those 2021 weddings start coming in, or the 2022s, whatever, we all need to be very careful about what additions we make to our contracts about pandemics, because that was nothing that was ever even a thought in our contracts, which was something that then we had to really make sure that we navigated through this process. Luckily for me, it's been my clients, and I'm sure all of yours sounds like they've all been great, but that is new language that we all have to talk to our lawyers about to continue to add to our contracts about any sort of pandemic or any other thing that could come up like this.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that we can learn from this whole thing, is that you really now, this has to be standard operating procedure for the future. You've really got to strengthen your contract. You got to take care of yourself down the road.
Yeah.
Okay, so last couple of questions here. Let's, again, these are more difficult questions, but let's try to keep our answers concise and move around the board quickly here. So let's just look at outlook. Short-term outlook, where are we over the summer, and then long-term outlook, where are we next year? Cliff, go.
Short-term?
Where are we in the short term, the summer? Where are we next year?
I think it's geographical. Okay, here in the Philadelphia, New York area, I don't think we're going to see anything. I'm not getting inquiries whatsoever. I don't think I'm going to be booking a wedding for a while. I don't think I'm going to be shooting a wedding. I hope and pray the fall. Okay, at the very earliest, but I don't see it. That's just my feeling. Long term, next year, I agree with Sal. I agree with Jose. I think it's going to be plentiful. I think you have to position yourself now. SEO, SEO, SEO. I loved what Jose was talking about with regard to reaching out to people, picking up the phone. I'm going to start doing that Monday a lot more instead of sitting around sulking. I couldn't agree more.
So I think maybe out of all the shelter in place, like I think maybe the maternity and newborn market is going to explode in the next 9 months or so.
I want to be a divorce lawyer now. That's what I want to be.
Marcus, what's your short-term and long-term outlook?
I guess it's not just my short term, but I mean, I think, for my advice is out there is, become more engaged in your community, seek help where you need it. I think we're all in for, a bit of a rough ride through this. We don't know when it's going to, we're all going to come out of it. Just know that we will all come out of it at some point or the other. And I know at different parts of the world, you'll come out of it at different times. So, I mean, talk to, people in your circle, planners in your wedding industry, get a gauge of what's happening so you know when to put your foot down and, get things rocking. But, like other people said, if you need to take a little bit of time out for yourself, don't hesitate to do that. I think for all of us, like our own mental health and our family and friends' mental health and, is important. So, look out for each and every one of us.
Salvatore?
No, and I agree with what Marco said. I mean, I'm fully with you. Absolutely. I mean, we already talked about it. I mean, I don't know. I want to stay positive, and what Cliff said, I say the same thing like Cliff and Marco said. I mean, I hope that we get through it into fall, but my feeling is for next year. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's go, Sarah.
Yeah, my short term is to actually just deal day by day right now. The situation, yes, the curve has started to flatten. But it's still really bad. So at the moment, it's just day by day. At the moment, that's all I can think about. I can't even imagine. I watch a movie and I think, what are all these people doing? They're just walking out into the street and they're all so close. Everything. I'm in this sort of, it seems bizarre to me now. I've been in lockdown for too long. So right now it's just day by day. I will start to think about being a little bit more proactive, possibly in a couple of weeks. And I'm going to use a lot about what everybody has said. Cliff, I love that about, Monday I'm going to start calling instead of sitting and sulking. I love that. You made me giggle. Thank you. But so yeah, I'm focusing on my current work. I'm still working on stuff from last year. I still have some things to deliver for my own clients. I'm retouching for studios. I'm focusing on the day by day, and then in a few weeks I will start thinking about marketing and promoting and building on what's going to be the big bounce back, the boom that's going to come, which I know it is, and I need to be ready for that as well. So that's what I'm doing. Surviving the rest of the year. That's my plan.
Sanjay.
Yeah, it's kind of a play on what everyone else is saying, really. I think Cliff's right, it is geographical. We haven't reached our peak yet. I think the US is going to be reaching its peak much later, and it's going to go in waves across from the east to the west coast. Over here, we're probably a couple of weeks away from the peak still. So we don't know when the end is. Hopefully it's, we're a small place, so hopefully the end will come a little bit quicker. And, it's everything that we've said. It's in the short term, it's the preparation now for the emergence at the other end of this. And inquiries are still coming in. We're doing what we can to try and convert those inquiries. We've had a couple of bookings for the end of next year, which is really cool. I don't think people feel that this is going to drag on until next year. If businesses can't do business until the beginning of next year, then we're in really deep shit, quite frankly. Business needs to be done. And businesses will need to continue doing businesses, and we'll have to adapt to find ways of doing that. Our suppliers will need to, our clients will need to. So, we just have to be adaptable right now as much as possible, and we have to be adaptable very quickly. So, in the short term, it's about just remaining agile, or becoming agile if you're not at the moment, to be able to respond to the changing landscape. It's changing very quickly in front of us. And also changing emotions, because they're changing very quickly in front of us as well. But also, as I keep saying, preparing for the emergence at the end of this. I think the future it's going to be okay, guys. I think it really is. It's going to be probably more work than we can deal with. We're going to be really busy next year. And it's like Jose was saying, we're going to be shooting twice as much next year. I think, partially to deal with, the postponements from this year, but also there's going to be a surge next year where people really want to get married. People, are going to have babies. People really want to get engaged. Families are suddenly going to realize how much they love each other, or as Cliff says, hate each other, and there's going to be lots of divorces. Divorce photography, is that a thing? I don't know. Cliff, you could start that, I suppose. It's one of these things. It's like I said, there's going to be new solutions to problems we just didn't know existed. And again, this comes back to what Jose was saying about thinking about contracts and things like that. Yeah, okay. A pandemic. Listen, these things don't come that frequently, and I guess I understand there's going to be anxiety with clients about the tailing off of this pandemic, and whether how long it's going to continue for. It's going to be around for a little while. It won't suddenly just vanish. It will taper off, and people are going to be slightly conscious of that. But you're more likely to break a leg in kung fu class, or slam your finger in the car door and not be able to, on your trigger finger, you're not going to be able to take a picture. You're more likely to do that than another pandemic come along. And these are the kinds of things that we've already been preparing for our entire careers, So don't get too paranoid about things, I would say. But yeah, in the short term, I'm dealing with my short, medium, and long-term lists in a way that doesn't make me feel guilty. That's what I'm doing.
Rocco.
Okay, short term, look after your health, both physical and mental, because if you have that, you can achieve anything, really. Working on the business as far as websites, SEO, as Cliff mentioned, great idea. This is a good time to do it, because I know sometimes it can be so tedious to deal with that side of the business. Updating blogs, and also taking this time to work on yourself. Upskill. Become a better version of yourself. Evolve. Think about things differently, because we will come out of this. We definitely will come out of this, and we will be busy again. But be prepared for that busyness. Be a stronger, better version of what you are today, and work toward it. That's my advice.
Tracey and D.
You go. I think short term, I'm hopeful by fall. I just want to be hopeful. I'm hopeful there's bigger things at play, and that the airlines and all kinds of things will get people up and moving. Long term, definitely through to next spring, but I think we've got so much to do in the meantime. So we're always just going to move forward. You just have to keep moving forward, even if it's not on photography, if it's something totally else, just keep moving forward. Don't get stuck.
Jose?
Short term, self-care, shooting for myself, and really it's just this reset. This is a time to reset. And long term, just can't wait to just shoot like fuck. Like hell. I don't care. Give me all the weddings in the world. I'm ready.
So just talking about shooting for yourself, have any of you guys had any kind of project that you've worked on with this time? I know like some people are doing the porch portraits and that kind of thing. Have you guys had anything that you've worked on?
I have an interesting thing that's come up. I can't talk about it too much, but it's something I'm doing for one of the brands, which means I have to do the whole thing myself. And part of it involves video. And I'm not a cinematographer, but we have cinema services, and my team do that. My team are obviously isolated now. So I'm having to go through a steep learning curve to do this by myself and become literally a one-man band. You see the guys walking around with a drum and a guitar and cymbals and everything else, and I'm going to be walking around. I'm going to be this walking rig, trying to do this video. It's going to be really interesting. So for me, I love challenges, and I love sort of rising to a challenge. And right now, Rocco mentioned upskilling. This is the time for us to really develop ourselves and build ourselves and learn new skills and discover new talents. And I'm hoping that I find that I have a talent in this. It's going to be interesting, but it's being something for a brand means there's a time limit to it. So there's a pressure of time. There's the pressure of obviously delivering quality, which is what we should be doing the whole time. But I'm going through a steep learning curve within that short period too, and delivering the thing. So I'll let you know when it's done.
So my own perspective on this is I do think short term, I really don't think, I think it will be fall at the earliest. I'm really hoping I can get my fall weddings in. My only concern long term, and I've mentioned this to some of you guys in our conversations about this, my only concern is that if this goes on for a long period of time, and there are so many people out there that are struggling and hurting, that I fear a little bit that there's going to be a price war and some cannibalization of the industry that goes on long term. Again, if this crisis continues for beyond the fall, so I hope not. But I mean, I can see people who are really struggling and their bank accounts are drained, that they're going to do what they've got to do to feed themselves and survive.
Can I just say something on that? Whilst I understand, there are going to be people who are feeling desperation. You also need to understand, and we've all said this, that what we're doing is going to be valued more than ever at the end of this. People are going to be itching for professional services to have the weddings photographed, the weddings that are postponed. When we get there, the emotion at the event is going to say it all. The elopements, the engagements, the weddings, the family portrait sessions, whatever it is, there's going to be more demand than there will be supply. And so why would that mean you would have to lower your prices at all? The thing that's stopping us is not because we're being undercut by somebody else right now, it's because we're in a government lockdown across the world. That's what's stopping us. So as soon as the taps open again, there's no reason to lower your prices. There's no reason for a price war. There's no reason to discount and undercut, because people will realize what we're worth. They'll suddenly realize even more what we're worth, and all those clients putting off their weddings, when they come to you for a consultation, of course there are going to be the opportunists that will try it and say, oh, can we have a discount because you're probably itching for work? That's entirely up to you in terms of how much you value yourself and your service and the industry that you survive in, that you're living in, that you're swimming in. And I'm sure everyone here will agree with me when I say that you've got to protect what you do. If you begin to undervalue it now, you may as well just start winding up right now. You may as well wind up during this lockdown period, because all you're doing is you're shooting yourself at both feet.
People who are watching this right now, take that to heart right off the bat. I can take that off the table. Anybody that watching this really does value themselves, so Sanjay, I think it's an important message for those that might not, but I think I can, for the names up here, I think everybody's with you.
Yep.
And can I just add one quick little thing, because I'm so on the same page, Sanjay, that was beautifully put. I've been talking with a lot of my planner friends last week and this week. We've done some conferences like this, talking to a lot of vendors and suppliers. And our whole feeling is that when things do come back, or whichever direction we go in, everyone will want to add something a little more special to their celebration. They'll want to add that, either to remember this time or just to have that element in there. So it won't be kind of what we've been used to. There will be something extra special that we will add to those celebrations. So no, we don't need to undercut ourselves. I hope and believe that won't happen.
And just talking about a price war, I mean, this is not photography related, but hopefully comes back. I was thinking we have a wedding in December in LA, and so I was thinking we might spend Christmas somewhere, like Mexico or something. So I get online and I think after the wedding's done, I'm going to start looking for hotels, because now's a great time. I'm thinking now's a great time because maybe some hotels and everything will have these special discounts because, of the situation that we're in. The complete opposite, the complete and utter opposite. If anything, they're actually more expensive because, again, there's going to be this demand. Everyone's going to want to be out doing something over Christmas, New Year, or whatever. So the travel and tourism industry, I haven't seen any time that we've been on anything, really, really. So I don't know why it would transfer to our industry, that we would need to all have to. It's the demand of what's going to happen. Well, I don't know if I explained it properly, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. I'm with Tracey. And, of course we are asking ourselves what's going to happen. We can't know what's going to happen. We should not think that our clients will come up and ask for a discount. Maybe they're not asking for nothing. And, of course we need to prepare ourselves. This is the moment, like Sanjay said before, we need to think about all these things and study this. Be ready for what's going to ask the client. But I'm not so sure that the client will ask you the discount or will not willing to do more or to print. How can we know? We need to just go through it, know that, prepare ourselves to be ready and tell them why it's right or why it's correct if they ask the discount or less. I don't know if it makes sense. But I'm with Tracey. I don't think that there will be special discounts. I think that everything will be with the same. Actually, they will rise up a little bit because everybody wants to fly, wants to go back, wants to go to visit home, family, and whatever. So they don't care if there's going to be the same money with no discount. I want to fly, and that's it, because I need to see my mother or my parents or whatever. Yeah, think about Sarah. Sarah, you're isolated right there. You're alone, right? So it doesn't matter how much they're asking. You just say, oh, there's a flight. Okay, I don't care how much it is. I'm flying. So you see, I think that will be the same for all the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
I think one of the concerns is something that Natalie Lucini, she's put up on a comment, maybe Greg can put it up on the screen, saying that my concern is that couples may seriously tighten their purse strings after surviving this. I get that. It's an issue that's always been there, where clients say, we have this wedding and this is going to cost this and this is going to cost X and Y and Z and so on. Can you do something on the photography? I'm not there to subsidize, as a photographer, something else. I'm there to provide the service I provide because I do what I do and I have a living to make as well. It's our jobs as professionals to be able to educate brides and grooms about the value of photography and help them see the value in what we do, and to maybe sit back and reevaluate what's important and what isn't in the wedding. Is it necessary to have the £10,000 band, that's going to come on for 30 minutes? I've had that. They value that more than the photography. They're not our clients, and that's fine. I'm okay not taking on those kind of clients because the priorities are somewhere else, and it doesn't resonate with me. But we can spend some time educating our clients to let them see what brings value and what doesn't. And I always tend to spend a bit of time trying to make them. Well, actually, this is what I do. I make them look at the list of wedding items I get them to split it into two lists. One of things that they're going to own at the end of the wedding, and one of the other list is all the things that's rented. And the list of things that they'll own is incredibly short. It's the wedding rings, it's the outfits, it's the photography, it's the cinematography, and that's it. And each other. Okay? They're probably never going to wear their outfits again. Obviously, they're going to wear the rings. The photo and video is the only thing they're going to own at the end of it that's going to have a value that's going to go up in value over time. Everything else is rented. Everything. And I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying they need to redress their priorities and redress the values of these things. And I'm not trying to undermine any of the other services at all. It's just about getting the clients to have a look at their priorities. That's all it is. So, I think those issues will be there, Natalie, and to everyone else who's wondered that. I think those issues have always been there. They'll always be there, with or without a pandemic. We've just got to educate them.
Well, I appreciate you guys expanding on that, because I do think that was an important thing to sort of close on. So I am going to try to get everybody out of here. We're 3.5 hours in, and you guys that have, I know there are some people in the comments that I've seen from the beginning, so I really appreciate you guys sticking around, and certainly I appreciate the patience of all our panelists here. So
much longer. I'm going to I'm just going to get a pillow and
I'm hungry. I've been getting this bait
all right.
for 3 hours.
Yeah, you guys champions.
All right, 60 seconds or less. What's your one takeaway to close this out? Cliff.
I'm talked out, brother.
Marcus.
I'm good.
Oh no, I mean, I'm inspired by listening to all these guys. I know everyone here, really well, probably 10, 15 years or more. Love them all. Love you guys. Thank you so much for sharing everything. I've taken a lot on board, and I feel that like I'll be better for it, because of you guys. So thank you.
Salvatore.
First of all, I want to say thank you to Greg because he did an incredible job to pick up all these, and it's an honor for me to stay all with these good friends and incredible photographers. And what I want to say is just, be positive and stay on the road. Don't stay too much on the couch. Just get off and do something, whatever, and appreciate the moments that you have right now. Even if it's a bad time, try to get the best things and look at it in the right way and be positive. All right?
Thank you, Sarah.
Oh, I'm getting all emotional now. My biggest takeaway, thank you, Greg, for doing this. My biggest takeaway is that you're all amazing. I feel so lucky and privileged to know all you guys and all of the photographers who are watching and people who I now call my friends. You photographers are my people, and I'm so happy and grateful to have found you. And I want to, one tip, if you're feeling like you can't do it and you don't have the energy, the motivation, do 3 things. Then go and sulk and feel sorry for yourself. So get up and jump up and down for 5 minutes, have a shower and put on something nice, and then do something else, maybe for your business. Then go and lie down and cry. Okay, that's one thing. And then the last thing is something that we say in Italy, as it's become a slogan as part of this very, very difficult time, and it's andrà tutto bene, meaning everything's going to be okay, in the words of Bob Marley. Andrà tutto bene.
Love it. I love it. Sanjay, 60 seconds or less.
Oh, man, I'm going to say, it's actually just expanding on what Sarah is saying is, look, right now, more than ever, maintain your standards as a minimum. Take this time, if you can, to raise your standards. So get up, get dressed up, have a shave, put on some aftershave or perfume, look good, feel good, and just, really do what you can to lift yourself up. Standards, guys, it's important now more than ever. Don't let them slip, because when we come out the other end, they need to be up here.
Rocco.
Yeah, my tip is stay connected, everyone. I mean, I know with all the people here on this panel, we're very connected. We've known each other for a very long time, but I think we're probably more connected now than we've ever been. We normally catch up maybe once or twice a year at conventions, but this has kind of brought us together in a very, very different way. So I suggest out there, if you are feeling lonely and if you're feeling that maybe it's all too much, reach out to people, reach out to colleagues. We are in this together, every single one of us in Australia, but globally. So, and just, sometimes just by talking to someone, it can make a world of difference to the way you're feeling. So, hang in there because, andrà tutto bene, as Sarah said, it'll all be okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Tracey and Dee.
Okay, my tip is, change is inevitable. It just is. And so we have to adapt and learn and work out how the best way for us to come out the other side, position ourselves in the best possible way. But absolutely, this is, everything that everyone's saying will be okay, and stay connected and all of that. But just know or have at the back of your minds, don't rest on, I can't wait for things to go back to normal. It's not going to go back. We have to keep moving forwards. And I think that's how we're going to be getting through this next year, is by looking forward.
And to Greg, thank you so much for pulling this motley crew of us together. To everyone online, we adore you. I love you all so much. It's our humanity and our connectivity that will get us through this, and our empathy, and something that sort of got us through some really dark days. Well, it's when it is dark enough, you can see the stars. So I'm just going to leave that there. And can't wait to see you all for Onnomi soon, which is the Japanese version of online drinking, okay? Onnomi.
So, Jose, you get the last word on this.
Actually, I think you should get the last word, but I'll get the second to last word. Thank you for putting this together. This is pretty awesome. I think we need to engage. Yes, connect, but also engage. I think one of the things we need to do, as just talking to you guys on this panel, is to connect with photographers that are newer to this industry. because, you know, we've been doing this for a pretty long time and we know a lot of people and we're going to get through it and it's going to be okay. But I feel like a lot of the photographers that are newer to this industry may be having a more difficult time than we are. So if you guys or anybody out there listening can connect with photographers that maybe look up to your work, we all have something to offer. You know, whether you've been in this for 3 years, 2 years, 5, 10, 20, like myself, you know, I'm reaching out to photographers that have come to my workshops from 10 years ago. Hey, how are you? You know, so I would say to you guys here and to many other photographers, reach out to other people that may need your help right now. And a lot of them are people that are just starting.
Cool. All right.
Well, Cliff said he was talked out, but he said he had one more thing he wanted to throw in. So
we talked about the isolation. And I've been working with Greg since he contracted this desire to do this, and he got the equipment and he put the work in, and he's taken so much time to get everyone together. And this has just been a really phenomenal start to building this online community. And you know, if anybody has ideas, what I came up with today is we can all be our little kind of sideline reporters for him if we want to create our own community and our own regions where we can talk to our own people. Jose, you can talk to planners using Greg's platform. There's things that we can do with Greg's knowledge here that would be great for our community, and I just want to thank him for putting this time in.
Yeah.
well, I appreciate it, and I'm glad I gave you that last word because I really appreciate that.
Needed to be said.
But like I said, I want this to be the first of many of these types of conversations that we can get people together and hash out these issues that we're all facing. And it's, you know, I already have an idea for the next one of these I want to do. I want to get together with a group of news photographers and talk about what they're going through, because news photographers have been deemed essential. And so they're all out right now working and engaging and reporting on our behalf to keep us informed of what's going on out there in the world. So that's kind of the next thing I have in mind. But I also want to do more of these shows with folks like you, and I already have some ideas on improving the format. But I really, really appreciate you guys taking the time to do this and indulging in now 3 hours and 45 minutes of running time on this thing. It was a bit of a challenge trying to coordinate it with all the multiple time zones, and I enjoyed some of my late night chats and conversations with all of you, and I certainly felt connected, and I think it's really important that we get that message out to everybody. Again, social distancing doesn't mean social isolation. Reach out if you're struggling, find some help. Join a professional organization that is going to advocate for your rights, for your needs, and going to advocate on your behalf. You're only one voice, but when you join a professional organization that advocates for you, your voice is amplified. So again, if you're struggling, I scroll back in the video and find those help numbers and websites that we listed. We're thinking about you. Everybody be safe, and we'll see you on the next one of these Real Picture live streams. Thanks so much for watching, and thank you guys so much for being here. And if there is a WPPI,
thank you guys.
At least the first 2 rounds are on me at WPPI.
We're going to hold you to that.